So supposedly, let's see, we are streaming. Oh, I don't even know what.
It doesn't show up on mine when I just hit refresh.
Well,
but maybe I hit it. I hit it a second too soon.
You hit it a second too soon. I gotta hit mine now. 2 seconds too soon. Up.
No, I got it now. I see. We're here. Everyone, here. Welcome.
We got
Derik. Hello. Prisons.
We got Derik live from prison.
Also known as my office, but my office, my house, it's fine.
Also, it's just a blue screen, and then when you take it away, you'll see the
bars.
Yes. Also, Dungeons and Prisons. It should have been called Prisons and Dragons.
I was thinking about that after I suggested Dungeons and Prisons.
Oops.
But I don't know. I think Dungeons and Prisons.
So Dungeons and Prisons. Oh, you're right, because it's kind of the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oops.
Although maybe not. I mean, what is a dungeon after all?
A dungeon is where you hold the prisons. It's the difference between a boat and a ship. Do you know what the difference between a boat and a ship is?
I do. A ship holds boats.
Correct. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But
dungeon holds prison.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Especially if you're located underneath Castle Blackmore.
There you go.
Sure.
Nerd alert. Well, hey, it's been a while since I have been on, so good to see everybody. I see we got Ben, Boothby, and Lolly in the chat at least, and those are Knights the last call representing. Welcome.
Yeah, where's everyone? Maybe this isn't as popular of a subject as I thought. Well, I don't care.
I think it's just also we moved to Wednesday, and we've had a little bit fewer people since then because it moved from the day that it was. We'll pick back up in a few weeks.
I think it's because of daylight savings. I think the rest of the world.
Daylight savings is also
messing me up. I am all for them permanently getting rid of that.
There's a book all about that. And so, by the way, I thought it was banned, but it's not. It actually passed the House, but a bill to abolish the daylight savings, but it has not gone past.
It already passed the Senate. I remember.
No, it didn't. No, it's nope. It's not.
Oh, wow.
It only passed.
It was introduced in the Senate.
Maybe it was the Senate. It's only going through one house. Maybe it's the Senate that passed it, but like the other house is like ignoring it. So
I was just remembering because the Senate wouldn't pass anything. And then the daylight savings was like one of the only things I think that they actually did.
Yeah.
No, well, I've never been a fan. I am not I'm not a farmer from the 1800s.
That's actually a myth, by the way. That's not what had. There's a book about daylight savings that I read, and the cool thing about it is that it's been removed before in the past, and it always comes back. And this same thing happens in every country. They all have it, and they all argue over it.
It did pass the Senate. It was introduced by Marco Rubio. Passed the Senate. It is held at the desk in the House.
Yes, there you go.
Since March.
I just can't believe that there are people out there who, I mean, I don't have kids, I have dogs, but that alone, they don't know that the hour changed, right? So I can only admit, I don't understand how we live in a country where there's people with children, young children on a schedule.
My kids are
and then all of a sudden you tell them bedtime is an hour earlier or an hour later.
They don't care. Well, actually, long story short, it has nothing to do with farmers. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with energy, and it had to do mostly with World War I, and then later World War II, is that they tried to have people awake during daylight hours as much as possible to use less energy during the war.
Sure.
That's where it came from.
I mean, I get that, but also war.
I feel like it does the opposite of what it's supposed to do.
Right.
By virtue of making those very early hours that people are usually not awake anyway.
Well, now they aren't, but 50.
That's my point. It doesn't serve a purpose now. Like now you have so many people working from home and nobody's getting up at 6 to, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, in my town growing up, they used to have the work whistle still. Like, you remember? That's like they just saw that. I'm actually watching Endor.
No, Stephen, because I didn't live in Bedrock.
Well, now you're dating yourself. Does anyone even know what that's from?
Stephen's work whistle was like an actual prehistoric bird that they blew on the bird.
Because the Flintstones, aka a cartoon version of the Honeymooners. Let's keep going back in time.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people who are younger nowadays may only know the Flintstones from like Pebbles, cereal, and vitamins.
You know what? This is how we're getting the known ad audience. Now we're talking about television shows from the 50s.
All right.
In black and white on live TV. Hey, if you watched Back to the Future, you know that show they saw in the 50s, that's the honeymooners, by the way.
Sure. I'm sorry. Let me channel my inner 20-year-old. Hey guys, let's drink. Oh.
No, it's, hey guys, let's TikTok and do a selfie while it's YouTubing and TikToking. I don't even know.
I am TikToking right now. I'm making a TikTok about a short. Anyways,
okay.
I feel like you're reducing all of Gen Z into like this very small subset of people.
I am. Okay, so this has been a big question. We'll start here. We'll get into topic, Stephen. This was a big topic of conversation on the Knights of the Last Call Discord.
Yes.
When this topic dropped.
Yes.
And I mentioned it to the Discord, and then you made the thumbnail. Mm-hmm. And the number one question was, what is going to be Stephen's story about how he has experience with prison, because Stephen has experience in everything.
Yeah, you have a background in everything. So true. Were you a guard? Were you an inmate? Like, what's your background in prison, Stephen?
So I actually have very little background in prison, but
whoa, that's like the only thing.
But not completely immune. I will tell you, I have some ancillary stories. My very first girlfriend ever, when I was 12 years old, her father is a dentist. I'm actually still friendly with her today. Elise, she's very nice. And her father was a dentist, and her father went to prisons to do the teeth of prisoners, and he was attacked and was like, and had like a limp for the rest of his life because of that. So
that's pretty rough.
I know, that was pretty rough.
That's what happens when you mess up the filling when you're in prison.
Well, I mean, even to the day, I kind of feel bad. He was very nice. And the other thing is, I used to do the DCC. Goodman Games has the Dungeon Crawl Classics. The guy who ran it, Aaron, was a guard. He was a prison guard for a while. He quit because he hated it. But he used to tell me stories about what it was like in prison. And so I do have a little bit. The last one I have, which is a funny story, is that I was like at like SeaWorld or something, and I was sitting there with my kids, and there was like people next to me, and this very large gentleman like pulls up the utensil, a plastic utensil, and says, "Hey Larry, look, it's a spork, just like prison." And I'm like, okay, there you go. Guess what they have in prisons is sporks. So
there we go.
All right, so we've established that we know nothing about prison.
Yes,
that's what we've established.
No, we know nothing.
Zero
I know
degrees
stories.
Of separation from anything we talk about, but there's clearly at least 1 degree of separation to his friend who was the prison warden from DCC.
I've had friends go to prison. Not long term, not like hard time. Like, was
it like white collar crime where they
not even white collar crime, just getting arrested and thrown in for overnight, things like that.
That's more jail than
that's
prison.
Jail. That's actually, you're right. Actually, you're 100% right.
Yes,
that is funny. That is like the one thing I have gone way out of my way to not talk about. But the reason I brought up this topic is A, I do have a little bit about it. B, Mark is probably one of the only people in the world who can talk about this subject, because you have stories about prisoners from Paizo that no one else will be able to talk about. So that's a very unique take. And C, I saw an article that prisoners in federal prison are not allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons. And they asked why, and it was all redacted. They would not tell on the Freedom Information Act why prisoners were not allowed in federal prison to play D&D.
I know the reasons that they've been banned before in the past in some prisons. So that may be the case for this article. I also read another
redacted,
article
so no one knows.
that article may have been not completely accurate. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll say this. I read the article and I talked to some people, and I think overall, to answer the base question, is why is D&D popular in prison, is the same reason I think D&D has always been popular in, say, the military, right?
That actually I do know a lot about. Yeah.
And so you need to have, something to do. And while I certainly believe that, prison in a sense is a form of punishment, but I also believe primarily, hopefully, that it is mostly about rehabilitation and about things. So I don't think that there should be this onus of undue suffering and punishment placed upon the prisoning population. And you have a lot of time on your hand, and you can't have the newest game from Mayfair. But we all are very well aware that all you really need is one book, maybe, that to have the rules, and you could just generate hundreds, if not thousands of hours of content from this fairly lightweight package. And it's easy to do and easier to go with. If there was one problem that I would imagine would come up with anything in prison, outside of any sort of potential banning, might be the dice.
That is one of the top two problems. Because at Paizo, we got a lot of prison fan mail, and like I didn't get it directly. Customer service team did. So everything I can tell you is more like I heard about it from other people at Paizo. But number one reason for being banned, the dice, because gambling is not allowed. And so they get around that though, because we heard from our fans that were in prison from Paizo with, Candyland style spinners, but they make number spinners that are not dice, that you can spin around and roll.
I've heard they've done that.
Other things like that.
They take pencils or writing implements and they roll those. There's a lot of ways around that.
They have ways around the dice problem. The other one is that there are some prisons that feel like that's like building up like bonds and strategy of things that could be used for like a prison break, but that's like a little more of a weird
that is really weird
than the gambling reason, which is the gambling reason is just flat out because gambling is banned, and they don't want people to claim they're getting Dungeons and Dragons and then just take only the dice and then start playing like an underground gambling thing.
I have a story for that, because the very first boxed version of D&D I ever got from Toys R Us way back in the day, like in the 70s, was it didn't have dice in it. It had the chits. And they said that reason they did that was because it was very popular in prison back in the 70s, like probably super crazy popular.
I'm also probably sure it was a lot cheaper, but
I have a feeling it's both. But supposedly the story is that they did that so they can get around the dice issue. And eventually, they did include the dice, but those dice were also the disintegrating blue dice that everyone remembers.
The real low impact plastic ones.
Yeah.
But in reading that article and reading some clarifications and notifications, and we actually have a member of our Patreon who has a close family member who is currently in federal prison.
Whoa.
And they are serving time. And this patron, this individual, regularly sends them Pathfinder books. And I guess there's sort of a lot of guards just look the other way, is what they were telling me.
That's nice.
And also this article even went so far as to suggest that, for example, I thought this was really funny because this got brought up twice. I kind of did some research on this. So a person wrote back to this article writer and they said, I don't know about that, but he goes, but I was incarcerated from 2009 or whatever, or 2010 to 2015, and they would let him play Pathfinder because it didn't say D&D.
D&D. It's a major thing for Pathfinder, and that's not the only.
And I was like, finally, Pathfinder has
D&D found Pathfinder found their audience.
There's another one you wouldn't expect
incarceration.
for Pathfinder. Do you know what that is?
What?
The children of like Satanic Panic, Bible Belt people.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because their parents, if they said,
they don't know what
D&D,
it is,
they would say, no, it's Satan and it will destroy
Mom,
you.
it's not D&D. It's not D&D.
Oh, right.
Say,
It's Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. And it's like, what's that? It's like, it's a game where we just, make believe with friends. It's like, roll dice. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's
we go
Dungeons and Dragons.
Mom, it's like a Disney movie. We go on adventures. We find paths. It's like exploring. It's like Boy Scouts, Mom. It's like Boy Scouts.
There were even some people who said that their parents, like their mom or dad, were aware that it had similarities in the genre of Dungeons and Dragons and did not care because it was not Dungeons and Dragons, the one that was said to be Satan by what they had seen.
At Paizo was missing their calling. They really got to do some no, seriously, like they got to do some reverse psychology, like hate advertising of like, do your kids want to play D&D? Was it the Jack, what's that called, the What's the guy who did all that did all those?
Jack Chick.
Jack Chick. Yeah, do all the Jack Chick. It was
like, it's my fault. Blackleaf died.
Yes.
No mercy.
You have to do the Jack Chick advertisement strategy. Like, if you want your kids to learn how to pray to the devil,
if you ever watch,
you'll play D&D. That's why you should play Pathfinder.
If you watch most of our live streams, I have a bunch of stuff on my soundboard. They made like a YouTube kind of serious, kind of spoof adaptation of Dark Dungeons, the Chick track.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
And I have a bunch of sound clips on my soundboard from that movie because it's so classic.
I was alive during the Satanic Panic, and where I lived, because I'm in godless New York, no one cared. But some of my other friends, like Param, who you guys know, either directly or indirectly, he was from Kentucky in the South, and his parents did not let him play D&D at all. And he was an army brat too, and he would tell me stories. And I've heard from other people through the grapevine, through cons, their parents were the same way. And when they were kids, their parents would not let them play. And of course, this was also, if anyone remembers, this is when they thought that kindergarten teachers were teaching Satanism, and there are still kindergarten teachers serving time today for teaching kindergarten because they thought they were teaching the kids Satan worship, it was a weird time. Let's just say that. So,
yeah, here I found an article which sort of kind of went off of that redacted prison ban, and they wrote an article here, and this article writer had an update, and they said several former and current federal inmates sent me messages saying that even if D&D and similar games such as Pathfinder are technically banned, correctional officers tend to look the other way. A current federal inmate writes, "I am in Danbury FCI, and I do not play, but many people do play Pathfinder," and they said a quote, a D&D facsimile, I guess, and it's very popular. Technically it's a gray area. Some say it's technically against the rules, but they don't really enforce the rules. Others say it's not, but I haven't seen anybody actually get an incident report for it. If it's in the rules, they don't try to stop you. Many people get all the books that get sent in as well. And then another person wrote in saying that they were at Federal Correctional Terminal Island in Long Beach and spent much of their time playing Pathfinder, a derivative of Dungeons and Dragons. While being officially banned, there was a tacit understanding between our groups and the prison staff. They knew that we had some contraband dice and we were breaking the rules playing the game, but they also knew that we were keeping to ourselves, not causing any trouble, and they had a lot more other issues to handle than go harass some geeks. And I'm like, and they say playing the game is what helped me get through my sentence. It let me mentally escape my situation and socialize with my peers, since I didn't really fit in with most of the prison population. Honestly, if you want to keep inmates out of trouble, then letting them play a multi-year long role-playing game is a pretty damn good strategy. And I couldn't agree more. In fact, I mean, you're not going to get upset if you got to wait 30 minutes for your next turn in a combat because you're in prison. What the hell else are you going to do?
Yeah, in fact, I remember, this is a long time ago, basically a friend of mine, her husband, long story short, my wife has some friends and their marriages were breaking up because one of them was gambling and like always gambling all the time, and the other one was drinking all the time. And she was like wondering, and I'm like, let me tell you something. I'm spending my time playing Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and board games. That's where we spend all of our time. We like that other stuff is way too much effort. It's like if you were where we are at night, you can come by and see, and it is like the geekiest, most pathetic thing you've ever seen in your life.
It's almost disappointing.
It's actually very it's like what was it? Not the 40-year-old version. The sequel to the 40-year-old version. Where she's sneaking. She's like following Paul Rudd to see what he's doing because she thinks he's cheating on her, and then she follows him to a house and goes into the basement, and they're doing their fantasy football draft, and she's just literally disappointed how pathetic it is. And I'm like, yeah. That's it. That's us.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time it was like a late night, and it was like the early morning. We were at the beach. I live on a lake, and we were playing a board game. It was more like a card board game. And a couple cops came down, because we were teenagers, and they're like thought we were drinking, and we were not. We had like cans of Pepsi, and we were playing, euchre or something, and it was like, and they were like almost disappointed. They were like, this is what you guys are doing on the beach. Someone Nightish in chat said, when you're jealous of prison games because of the lack of schedule conflicts. Yeah, I certainly would not want.
Oh, you know what we do?
I certainly would not. I do not want to make
knocked
light
up
of the prison experience. But at the same time, I mean, they do have a lot of time on their hands to kill, to sit there and do that.
Yeah, I mean,
I also think, sorry, but someone also mentioned, Lolly and Dalek talked about therapeutic uses of TTRPGs, and I think about that, and I think about maybe, I believe that. I believe in redemption. I believe that very few people are evil of their own accord, right? That they, life circumstances.
That's what all evil people say, Derik.
Life and circumstances, sometimes outside of their control, force them into these bad situations. But the way our society is structured, a lot of times these people find themselves trapped in cycles of repeating violence and crime. Dungeons and Dragons being a role-playing game, allowing you to step outside of yourself, and traditionally in most role-playing games into sort of a heroic light, a good guy role, to be the person who is doing the moral thing. And it's sort of maybe you're free of those shackles of your past in a way, that role-playing games do. Maybe you grew up in a very poor, neighborhood with a very poor family, and you didn't get a good education, and so you felt trapped in a life of crime. But here is an opportunity for you to be whatever you want to be, this sort of idealized version of yourself, and to see what can come of that. I mean, I think that for a prisoner, outside of any sort of other therapeutic uses, I think that is one of the most beautiful and powerful and impactful things that we could possibly extend to these people. And so while I am happy to hear that apparently the correctional officers, I'm sure it's not true everywhere, but tend to look the other way when it comes to something like role-playing games, it's crazy to me that on an official basis, it would be banned. I would think this would be almost something that they would be encouraging.
Well, keep in mind, they are very much into cruelty, and if it's something that they like, then why not ban it?
And I'm not for that, but I also understand that prison is supposed to be a punishment, right? So what you need to have everybody go run a really horrible 5e campaign, right? And then
it's like, okay, you want prison? You got to play.
What's a horrible? I don't know. See, the problem is I don't think there are any bad role-playing
games.
That's
what systems. I'm saying. I'm like, there's no real. It's like, oh, you got to play like, third edition, not 3.5. Third was kind of rough.
No, third was so good. I like third. I like 3 better than 3.5.
Wow, really? You see, even fourth, like I had fun with fourth. I love second.
What did you like better about 3 than 3.5?
Yeah, that I'm kind of surprised.
Who, me?
Well, you're just weird to begin with, so tell us why.
There were a couple of things that I could probably list, but one of the biggest ones that I liked the most was that they had a lot of the buff spells were hour per level, and they changed those in 3.5 to like 10 minutes per level.
I think you just like it because you like controversy.
No, I just genuinely speaking, I like 3.0. In 3.5, they reduced the ranger down to D8. I never liked that. I like the ranger at D10.
It's your own game. You can do whatever you want.
I know. I'm just saying. I mean, some of the changes are so minuscule and minor.
That's true. I feel like the buff spell changes were well deserved.
Yeah,
didn't they change?
Could have stayed at the D10.
I don't remember the changes, but I thought like the thief, the rogue, whatever changed a lot, and the barbarian changed a lot.
3.5 introduced that fact that like smaller creatures, like now their weapons did like D3. Like they had like the weapon size changes.
That. Yeah.
I didn't even remember that being new to 3.5.
No, that was I definitely. Yeah,
I didn't really play 3. That's the thing. It's like I started with 3.5.
The other thing about 3.5 that sometimes hides what the small rules changes were is that the splat books were way better in 3.5 because they knew the system by then. Where the ones in 3.0,
Dungeon was
like
so
Dungeon was fantastic.
So complete divine, complete warrior, complete arcane, complete scoundrel were much better than Sword and Fist, Defenders of the Face, Tome and Blood, Master of the Wild, and Song and Silence. Like the 5 3.0 splat books sucks.
I missed 3.0 mostly.
Yeah, but 3.5, which had complete wizard or complete arcane, complete whatever, were really, really good.
You know
Those
why?
were much better books.
You know why, Derik? Actually, I can tell you why. Because Magic.
They learned.
No, well, I missed it because Magic came out right when 3 started, and we were heavy into
you're
Magic.
Explaining why you missed it, not why they were better books.
But, no, I totally
it's definitely
because
they learned, they were familiar with the system by the time that they released the 3.5 books. It wasn't that different. Like, it's actually pretty difficult to get the support books to come out and be really good at the beginning of an edition that is a pretty fundamental change. I know this from,
designing games.
Designing PF2. That was not easy to have some of those early books that came out for PF2 to have a lot of quality content in them. But it was, in fact, very challenging. So I completely feel the pain from 3.0, and I totally understand why the 3.5 ones were better.
I just remembered my other biggest reason for 3.5. I much prefer damage reduction / +1, +2, +3, +4 rather than type, because
my god. All right, we're getting into the weeds here. Yes.
because number one, it was no longer special. I appreciated that having a higher plus weapon wasn't just about getting an additional +1 to hit and +1 to damage. It was also about being able to strike these creatures. Once like +1 became just /magic, it didn't matter anymore. But also when you had creatures that were like /magic, /adamantine, /cold iron, that's when led to like the golf bag fighters in 3.5.
Anyhow, Mark, why don't you tell us some stories about prison life at Paizo?
The
prisoner.
I told you.
I don't know if you meant to say that, but I
did mean to say that.
That was pretty good.
I mean, did you get like letters? Well, I remember when I would go to Blizzard, they would have in the front, in the waiting and reception area, a big book of all these letters from like kids and people who were sick saying how much like World of Warcraft and like really helped them out in their life, and they had all these like really inspirational books and letters. Did you have something similar from prisoners?
I mean, there were a decent number of prison letters that Paizo would get, but like I didn't get them, so I only heard digests from the people who did get them. And so like I sort of mentioned, there are a lot of them, and they talked about like really liking, and they were generally positive. Just like Derik said, they would talk about how Pathfinder was just very helpful, just like psychologically to them during their time. And there was discussions about like the dice ban and the use of spinners and other things like that, where things that would come up, but we would only hear them in the context of like talking to a fellow Paizo staff member who was from.
So we got to get Eric Mona on the program to get we got to get Eric on the program to get the lowdown. Maybe.
I mean, Eric may have heard more of those stories, but he's also not in customer service. The problem is that back when we used to get a lot of prison mail, and maybe we still do, but all of those customer service people have left Paizo since then. So, but like you could still get them on, even though they're not at Paizo right now. And I'm sure they have stories of all the different.
So John has a nice little super chat. It's like, in school, you never saw nerds abuse drugs because they spent all their money on TTRPGs and other nerd stuff. That is true. I spent all my money on computer games, video games, computer equipment, board games. You remember Talisman? Well, I had every single Talisman expansion, and let me tell you,
nerd,
there's a lot of expansions for Talisman. I used to play that every single day after school.
That being said, every time I see that replica Black Razor just hanging out in your back, I do get a little jealous, and I wish I had one.
Oh, look at this sucker!
That's so cool.
Black Razor,
so cool. Oh, it's so cool.
It's really good quality too.
I'm a big fan of Talisman in terms of like, I really like the concepts and the flavor and theming of Talisman, but just like the game is really degenerate.
Oh, it's totally degenerate. But what made it fun is
one time I played a game of Talisman where literally I got to the center and was in the crown. One of the other players just had an infinite loop of healing that could survive the damage they were taking from the crown indefinitely.
No,
so we just
you weren't playing with
call the game a draw because it was impossible.
No. You were playing with the wrong option. So there was an expansion that gave you 6 choices in the center, and you would draw from the deck. And one of them was the crown, and then the others were new. But one of them was the void, where it opens up a black hole, you get sucked in, and you die, and that's it. And that was it was like Russian roulette. That was so satisfying when you'd be playing a game and someone would run and they get to the center and they pull the void and they die, and then the rest of us are like, yay! And then we get a chance
kind of
to
thing
win.
that I enjoy as
Oh,
much
I
when
love
I'm playing
it.
a game,
I love
because
it.
it's just pretty arbitrary.
Oh,
That's like those stupid hidden blocks in Mario Party
Well,
that they eventually
Talisman
made
is-
that just you get 12 stars.
Talisman
I
is
guess you win.
incredibly RNG. Talisman is the original RNG game.
Two things. Number one, I hate Mario Party for the exact reason that Mark just described. Number two,
RNG.
Talking about you were talking about all the expansions for Talisman. You know, that brings up an interesting question too about prison. I wonder if, because I'm imagining that they have to I'm imagining they don't have as ready access. You know, I'm sure people are trying to send them books, but you can't have a library of books like Stephen or I have, the way, you know, that a lot of people do. And I wonder if prison RPG campaigns are actually better. because like, you know, because like they really have to
probably.
You know, they really have to, you know, they just go in extreme directions. They can't just go onto Reddit or YouTube and see what, you know, Matt Colville is talking about or doing, or what, you know, Matt Mercer's doing. Like, they have to kind of have to make it all up there. So it's almost like, I mean, prison in this way is almost like a time machine back to the 80s or the 90s, where RPGs were kind of more like, you just do it the way you do it. You know, maybe you learned it from somebody else. They indoctrinated you as they knew it, or
Well,
they saw it.
It's all house rules, man.
Yeah.
It's like the whole game is all homebrew.
Who knows? I mean, that'd be a good question, but we don't really know enough people to be able to answer.
Well, maybe we could do a part 2, and this way we could properly name it instead of Dungeons and Prisons. We call it Prisons and Dragons. Part 2, and so we can get a prisoner on who played.
Did you like Mario Party 1 and 2 more than the later ones? When it was less random, and if you were good at the mini games, you could just neg people out of their money and they would just lose. I like Mario Party 1 and 2 for those.
I can't say that I played enough. I can't say that I played enough Mario Party to have particular opinions about specific versions of the game.
I played it a lot, and I can't remember any of it. So.
Mario Party 1 was,
oh my god,
I felt was good because
do they play this in prison?
You could give people negative points if they lost.
Good.
In Mario Party 2, the thing that sort of saved it from the fact that they got rid of some of those negatives was the dueling option, where you could challenge someone to a duel for all of their coins, beat them in the minigame, and then take all of their coins. And that helped get around the randomness.
If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. And super chats are answered immediately by Derik in his Kermit voice. That is the rule.
I will happily answer all of your questions.
As Kermit, not just Kermit voice, but as Kermit the Frog.
Well, you know,
what does Kermit play? What type of character would Kermit be?
Well, I really like to be a Flick Mace fighter.
There you go. Why was Kermit incarcerated?
Well, Kermit's been in jail. But did you see the second Muppet movie? He's been in jail many times.
Yeah,
I'm a hard felon.
And Tina Fey was his warden.
Going back to what John has super chatted though. By the way, what's up, John? John, another nice last call hero. Talk about money on drugs. You know, I will say that RPGs have this weird dichotomy, because on one hand, everyone's always like, RPGs are so cheap. And then I'm like, are they though? Like, there is so much that goes into like being, I feel like every role-playing gamer I know spends $1 bajillion. You know, it's
John wrote a terrible question. I think we need to send either Stephen or Mark to prison to do some boots on the ground research. Who would last longer?
Mark would last 100% longer, maybe 200% longer.
Probably.
100%.
Why would I last longer?
Yeah, why would he last longer?
Because Stephen and I have big mouths. Okay, we talk shit.
You would disrespect someone.
We would get real lippy, or we would try. True. And then, you know, listen, I'm not trying to say like I know understand.
But I am very good at fitting in, though.
No, Mark is a damn chameleon.
That's true. He just disappears.
He would Andy Dufresne that thing. Okay,
yeah,
he would just 20 years later, Mark's climbing out of a shit pipe with $25 million. Warden Norton is framed for the whole thing. Please to Mexico.
That's true. Mark would.
I feel like
Mark
I
would
would be more
using...
likely to be actually sent to prison than Stephen, because Stephen's lawyers are so good.
That's that's definitely true. Like I have lawyers upon lawyers at my beck and call. The chances of me going are slim.
I don't know why. Again, if you've never seen Shawshank Redemption,
I've only seen it 10 trillion times. But yes,
I don't know why, but now I'm having this mental image
of Mark like this.
No. Of you know when Andy is escaping out of and he's going through the sewer.
Yes.
And he gets free.
Yes.
And he's just doing this.
That's what I just said. Right? Where he's like this up in the air in the rain.
Now I'm imagining. Okay, replace Andy Dufresne with Mark.
Yes.
And replace the Shawshank prison.
With Paizo. Yeah. Man. Damn, that's just mean.
Look,
I don't know.
There's definitely hard working environments sometimes at Paizo, but I don't think it can be compared to it.
No, it's not a prison.
You're right. Prison may have had better.
Meanwhile, I don't even know what Mark's doing half the time. That's how lollygaggy he is working with me. He's
that's because you have a trusted and valued employee who is more of an ally than a liability.
That's true. Oh, I completely trust Mark. By the way, what are you working on, Mark, by the way?
Okay, so right after this episode, I'm going to be finish the 100th monster from
good job.
From the Battle Zoo Best Year Strange and Unusual.
Excellent.
But that's going to be over 2/3 done with the
you're cranking monsters through those.
And I'm saving the platinum grand prize and their monster families for last, so I can do them together. But
those are the hardest.
They should be better written in addition to being hardest. So
because you're in the groove. That's why I told you do them last. Because you're in the groove. You're kind of like you're totally in the mode, and then you can just crank those out because it's very hard to do those
right now, which have definitely been harder than the silvers and the golds because some of them have fundamental issues determined by the judges. But I'm still making it through, and I'm following your advice on the groove on that. And we've got over barely over like 6 and a fraction of the, but as you said in the newsletter, over half of the ancestries for your monsters are done. And so my goal is to just finish Strange and Unusual so that we can have one of the 3 books out for people. And so that's what I'm working on. But thanks to the votes for your monsters, there may be some ancestries that are not the ones I did yet that we plan on doing in the first half of the year. So I may flip back to those and
we have to eventually. I think I have basically the first 4 months worked out, and then after that we got started. And I remember
you giving some ideas for that. And at least one of the ones you said was not one that I'd already done yet.
Yeah.
So I will switch over and do that at some point as well when it's convenient. That's where I'm at. Eldamon is gonna have to wait a little bit because it's very long, so it won't complete.
Well, that will be
I'd like to get
that will be the last thing.
Yeah,
and then but we're getting the artwork in. I just got some more.
The art is so good.
I'm never gonna make a book ever.
Do you know how many books I released this year alone?
I don't know. It's
like 9 or
so
10.
Much. I never thought that I would work on more books and more pages than I did at Paizo. But with Stephen, I do because I don't have to go to a ton of meetings.
We hired someone to make a stupid, like 2-inch by 2-inch icon logo for a sticker giveaway that we're doing for our Patreon. Okay, the amount of bureaucracy and back and forth that we had to go through just to get a stupid flat check DC 21 sticker made, okay? Which obviously, if you know Pathfinder 2, you get the joke. It was crazy. And that was a freaking joke sticker logo.
Hold on, though, because I know you're using this as an example of like the easiest thing, but my experience at Paizo is an icon or logo art.
Logos are very hard.
They were some of the hardest things to get past.
You have
and
that's a bad example.
Sometimes when they were doing like the season logo for like a season of Pathfinder Society, it would sometimes take like
you need experienced logo designers
for 80 person hours
but
to
don't
decide
think
on that.
But don't think like logo like this is going to represent our company for the next 6 months.
Doesn't matter.
A sticker. Just think. I use the term logo. Just think a sticker.
So just a piece of art.
That's different.
It's just a random.
That should not take that long.
It's a graphic piece of art. Just a piece of graphic art. Not even realistic. Whatever. Just a flat.
So we have
vector
questions.
file.
Do players playing in prison, from Bob, start their campaigns in a prison like some GMs?
I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but I think a lot of them just want to
but I would say they do start their campaigns like every Paizo adventure path I've ever played in 2nd edition and Starfinder, where a dwarf dies in the first episode. Seriously, do you notice that? Every game, a dwarf dies. It's
I know that
kind of weird.
A dwarf does die in Fall of Plaguestone.
Fall of Plaguestone, dwarf dies. Star, what's the Starfinder?
Age of Ashes?
I don't know about Age of Ashes, but the Starfinder one.
Extinction Curse, a dwarf dies.
Extinction Curse, a dwarf dies. Well, I only played 3 on the podcast. Plaguestone, dwarf dies. Dead Sons, dwarf dies. Extinction Curse, dwarf dies. First thing that happens.
What about Agents of Edgewatch? Does a dwarf die?
So this may have to get added. This may have to get added to my tinfoil hat Paizo conspiracy group then, because I've already said that I believe that Paizo has a Pathfinder 2 has deliberate embedded attacks against religion, specifically organized religion. Because there are so many instances where a creature will be like, blah, blah, blah. But if it's a divine creature, it gets doubly punished. Or it's like, this creature is particularly good at destroying the divine. And there's all these random spells, creatures, abilities that for some odd reason are really, really good at like attacking a divine person. And so that
I can tell you why
I actually think I know why too, but
it's actually not even because of disliking putting religion in. It's because actually of some of the people at Paizo who like putting religion-oriented things in the game and love fiends, which led to entire categories of fiends who are evil because they hate other religious or divine figures, such as like Titans, Demodans, Asuras. And so due to that, other elements of the game that supported those themes, are also in the game. So it's actually, it mostly comes from the people that want more divine stuff in the game that have gotten the things that.
Well, the net
like that.
Is the net is the number of creatures and abilities which can adversely affect arcane, primal, and occult traditions can be like listed on like one hand, whereas the number of creatures that can adversely affect castings of the divine tradition is a much, much, much larger number. So it's just kind of funny.
There you go. So what's your other conspiracy theory?
Well, now I'm going to add that they hate dwarves.
Well, there is.
You know why? Because
who doesn't like dwarves, but dwarves also have the most feats before even adding the this new book that is entirely dwarves that's coming in.
That's a big one.
They actually had more feats than any other ancestry in the game, including humans, elves, any of them.
Well, I do know that I think in Pathfinder 1, if you used the race builder, what was it called?
Oh yeah, that thing from the advanced race guide.
Advanced race guide. If you put a dwarf together, I think they had the most points.
They had more, and funny story about that.
Like they should have been ECL 1.
I mean, almost. The funniest story about that race builder and advanced race guide, because I was just a fan at the time, but I was in the playtest. It was the weirdest playtest you've ever seen, because if you've playtested any game for Paizo in Pathfinder or a video game, playtesters have feedback all over the place, and there's always like these fights between different groups. They're like, this is fine as it, this should change to that, we want this, we want it to go 2 different directions. But the advanced race guide race builder playtest was absolutely one shining golden moment of agreement, where the entire internet that was doing the playtest came together and just all agreed with each other that we did not want what was in the playtest, which was where they intentionally tried to make all of the races cost the same amount of points, by just blatantly making abilities that were obviously better than other ones cost like less. So the dwarfs +2 to all saves versus spells cost less than the gnomes +1 to saves against illusions.
Nice.
And and we were like, why? And so Stephen Radney McFarlane was sort of the face of the playtest. He wasn't the only person who was doing the event-based guide. He's like, well, we wanted them all to equal the same. And we were like, we don't mind them not being the same. Please give true values for the abilities, because it is outrageous.
It defeats the purpose. Yeah.
So let's get to the other question.
Against all.
So they were saying, hey, we're going off topic, and we're going off topic because of a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have another good one. John wrote one. He says, does Roll for Combat ever plan to dabble in other TTRPG supplements, or is Pathfinder 2nd Edition the sole focus in the foreseeable future? So we got Nonad on board. Do you want to be on board, Derik, for this book?
For the Choose Your Own Adventure.
Choose Your Own Adventure, Legendary Kingdoms, which is actually a role-playing game where you get a character and you actually use dice and you fight, and it's very good, and there's multiple books, and we were thinking is that Mark could be, quote, GM/narrator.
It's technically GM-less, but for a stream it makes sense to have one person just sort of handle like reading the things that show up.
And it has the characters are pre-made, and then
I'm a bit hesitant.
Oh, really? All right. I thought you'd be fun. I'll find someone else. I'll find someone fun.
Well, there's your problem. I'm not.
No, that's the whole point. I don't want someone fun. I want you.
All right. I mean,
that's just a really mean thing.
Listen.
I said that on purpose. He knows that.
If Stephen is going to ask me so nicely like that, I mean, how can I say no?
Dude, you were so good on the Leshy. That was so good. The Leshy. I was more impressed with the overlay. I loved that overlay.
Oh my god,
that was such. You should really all overlay should be that. Now I see why they do it on Twitch, because it was actually very fun and much more exciting having all that animation and stuff going on than just some boring overlay.
Did you watch it, like the actual watch it?
I watched most of it. Yeah.
Okay, so you saw it get progressively more.
Yeah, I saw it get crazier and crazier.
Liked the most about it.
Yeah, that was fun. And then it got by the end. It was actually. It worked because I'm like, I kind of wanted to see how crazier you can get, and it got pretty crazy.
Obviously, right. I mean, the final stage of Maximum Kawaii was I
loved it.
Was the most distracting thing you could possibly imagine. It was lotus flowers everywhere, anime girls, flying lotus petals falling across the thing. It's actually somebody. Again, I don't want to get us off topic here, but
okay.
That's all right.
I don't want to get us off topic on like the other 10,000 times. Yes.
Hey, I've been trying to get us off
topic. We'll go back on. We're answering questions.
No, I know, but somebody said, okay, here we go. Someone commented just today. They said, commented on our Leshy Fishful Flowers. They said, this is actually the best example of players actually role-playing their ancestries. Instead of humans but blue or humans with feathers, these were true Leshies.
Well, you guys were all you were like the grumpies. You're trying to kill everyone. You were like,
well, listen, I'm not a human. They can die.
That's true.
John, great question from John to put us back on topic. I wonder how popular solo RPGs would be in prison. I could see that being immensely popular.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like like we were talking.
You
today,
know what those
John,
are called? Those are called books.
No, have you read Iron Sworn or Starforge?
No, I actually have not. So I play I used to play a lot of board games, and they always have like the option to play by yourself.
Yeah, solo play.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And I can play video games by myself. In fact, you're cutting into my God of War Ragnarok time, Derik and Mark. I was playing it.
I mean, if you want, we can end it.
No. I gotta. It's so good. God, it's so good. Yeah.
Stephen, just leave. Mark and I will take this thing home.
That's true. That is true. You don't need me anymore. I'll just turn off my computer, and there goes the stream.
All of the tech for it, though, wouldn't it like just collapse if he left?
Yes, it would.
I guess you could just leave your thing on and just like get up and go play God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, I'll go play.
We were, but I think that we've seen that. I think if you look at Kickstarters, if you've looked at just the success of games, there was at least one, maybe one or two of the games up for Game of the Year for the Ennies this year, which of course was won by Thirsty Sword Lesbians, second place Root. One of the games, maybe two of them, were solo RPGs. And I think we've seen more and more. And I know
I'll try one.
And I know that Ironsworn and Starforge both did tremendously well on their Kickstarters, and especially for being written by one person. And I think it speaks to something that a lot of people, and we have a player in our group that he plays with us every Friday remotely, but he also has his own solo Starforge game. There's like some really cool websites that like help proceduralize it to track all the information.
Yep.
And he does it just as sort of like almost like doing a Sudoku.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like it's no different than playing like in my opinion, a video game. It's like a video game is mostly usually a solo activity, and for some reason though, I'm just one of these people. I can't play solo board games. I can't play solo RPGs. I can read books and I can watch TV and I can play video games, but that's it. So something else that
you can't play solo board games or RPGs. Is that because you enjoy the social aspect?
I do enjoy
because you want there to be a winner.
No, I just enjoy strategizing with someone else and having. I just enjoy, like, actually we're putting together an Oathsworn group, which is the new hotness, that's like the hot game right now, and it has super heavy role-playing elements and then crazy tactical combat, and you can play it by yourself. You have to have 4 characters, but I can't do it because I don't want to be the one I feel weird just like strategizing all 4 of them. I'd rather have someone else do what they're going to do, And
so speaking of strategizing, I actually found an article here about maybe one of at least one state prison's decision to ban D&D. It said in 2004, the Waupun Correctional Institute in Wisconsin decided to ban D&D and confiscated a mountain of campaign materials from inmate and dungeon master Kevin Singer's cell, including a 196-page handwritten manuscript.
Oh man!
Singer, lifelong D&D enthusiast, sued the prison, arguing the ban violated his First Amendment rights.
I have a feeling that's just harassment. That has nothing to do with. That's just them being dicks.
What happened with his suit?
So here's what happened. The Seventh Circuit, ignoring affidavits from other inmates and from advocates of role-playing games, sided with the jailers. Quote from the decision. Yeah. The question is not whether D&D has led to gang behavior in the past. The prison officials concede that it has not and has not to date. The court wrote, the question is whether the prison officials are rational in their belief that, left unchecked, D&D could lead to gang behavior amongst inmates.
That I've heard many times.
And undermine prison security in the future. And it said, until recently, the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections had an official, yet often unenforced ban on D&D materials, as well as similar RPG materials, under the category of bannable writings which advocate violence, insurrection, or guerrilla warfare. And I go, you know what? Maybe they have a point there.
Yeah, D&D, I feel like
D&D does kind of.
Yeah, but can you play chess?
In the Hell's Rebels game we're playing, we've definitely used violence, insurrection, and guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about chess? And chess is infamous for being played.
Yeah, but I feel like
chess is highly abstract, though.
It's abstract of killing people.
Insurrection in chess, unless you're talking about the fact that you're like having an insurrection against red
regicide. Come on, man, you're trying to kill the
queen by like having a pawn go over and take the queen, and then go to the back of the board and then becomes a queen.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of weird things.
No, if anything,
in
chess just brutally reinforces the social order. The only thing that matters are the people at the top, and everybody else is sacrificial.
But wait, in chess though, all you could have multiple queens, and all of the pawns can become queens. Also,
right, it's the American dream. It's an illusion, but the pawns can become a queen.
Are all of the pawns actually women, or is that just something that happens when they?
I like to think they're like a dinosaur from Jurassic Park, right? They have the ability to assume any gender as befits the need.
What it is.
Wow, that was a stretch, but I'll give
frog DNA to these chess pieces.
Well done.
Very good. Anyhow, one other aspect which we haven't been Oh my God, where'd that come from? Are you inserting sound effects? That's a bannable offense. In fact, I am giving you an infamy point for that.
You have to warn him before.
I did warn him.
Listen, I can't help the fact that I've got this sick ass setup.
That was pretty funny. You got me. I was like, "Where's that coming from? Do I have like a crowd in my office?"
Yeah, that's
like,
wondering. Yeah, no, it's a Derik sound.
We got the whole thing.
Wow. I do like sad trombone is one of my favorites.
That is literally what I have that written as, sad trombone.
Well, no, we were saying. So I do know we have a ton of Roll for Combat fans. And I've met many of them at Gen Con who are in the military. And that's
absolutely.
Very common.
That's a huge thing.
I mean a lot of military fans.
Donate RPG stuff to the troops. They run I think Ziggurat Con or something like that was run by troops that were in Iraq. Was a group of people in the military who played the Murder on the Silken Caravan Pathfinder Society adventure in the middle of the Arabian desert. They just got out and set up a table in the middle of the desert.
And the military the same, but you're both very isolated. And I would talk to submariners, and they were, talking about isolated. They're really isolated, And even Lauren, who's on our show, she was a tanker in the Saudi Arabia. She also was very isolated. When you're in the middle, when you're in a tank in the middle of the desert in Saudi Arabia, there's not a lot of options out there.
Mike Sayer, who's worked for me as a designer at Paizo, and still there, is a veteran who was in the military too. There's just a lot of overlap.
Yeah, and I think though it speaks to prison and the military are obviously very, 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 very different things. But once you're there, you lose a lot of personal freedom. You kind of have to do what you're told. And so role-playing games are kind of a form of ultimate escapism and ultimate freedom. And if you look at the other third group that traditionally has been attracted to role-playing games, it's people who may not actually be in prison, but they feel like they are, right?
Wait,
because
I got it. I actually can use my experience for being in prison.
Oh, okay. You were actually in prison. Okay.
Kind of. I used to go, when I was a kid, to summer camp. And when you go to summer camp, sleepaway camp, you're away for 8 weeks. And you lose all your freedoms, and you are in a bunk with other men and boys, and you have a lot of rules. And we used to
minimizing prison a little bit.
It is, but we used to play
someone else who
a lot of D&D.
Kind of summer camps as a kid. I still think you're way minimizing.
I am minimizing.
I want to interject.
But we did used to play a lot of role playing games because we did have a lot of free time. And
I want to interject here real quick on both of you and just say, get your bougie asses out of here.
That's true.
Who the hell goes to sleepaway camp and then bitches about it? You two punks. I would kill for that.
I never went to sleepaway camp because I didn't want to go to it.
Do you know what I got when I was summer? You know what I got for summer vacation? My mom would get me a pass to the pool, to the city pool. That's what I got for the summer.
I got that too. That was fun.
You got that too, Stephen? Oh, I had to go to summer camp, and I had to play role-playing games all the time, and we had to do fun events all day. Right?
Yeah, I know. I never said I had a bad childhood. I had a great childhood.
Force you to do outdoor activities. And
if you watch the Goldbergs, that was basically my childhood.
I just want to say that checks out. I want to say that it gives me some comfort because it lets me know that in addition to people who for D&D for whom it was an escape, a way to have an additional element to my life. I could see, again, the question is, why is it so popular in prison? And maybe that's also why it's so bannable, which is that prison is very tough. And these inmates want that form of escapism. And just reading from these two letters, which this person wrote in, or two different people who wrote in to this article, it highlighted that. But, and this is where I think the social debate comes from. Should prisoners be escaping? Right? Does that minimize what they're there for? Because
well, that's a whole other subject because there's different types of prison. There's minimum security, there's medium, there's max, there's super max. There's all these different types. There's federal, there's state, there's local. Yeah, I think
people's life is disrupted enough by being sent to prison.
Yeah.
And having that on their record, that you don't need to try to punish them more by taking away the things that they want to do while they're in prison.
Right. And I agree with what Stephen said earlier, which is most of these reasons for why the game was banned seemed very punitive and draconian.
Yeah. No,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
It didn't seem like it was a legitimate security concern. Like they're really going to learn most, things. Water Slice that is D&D currently banned in most prisons. According to the research and the articles that I've read, officially, yes, at the federal level, and then many states ban it too. But from articles that I've read and things that people have said on Reddit, again, take it with a grain of salt, a lot of people say that, and some people I know from my Discord who have family members in prison who they send role-playing games to, a lot of correctional the official rule, may say they are banned, but a lot of correctional officers are fine looking the other way because, again, of all
especially if you have a replacement for the dice, which is one of the things that is also like even more bad.
Right, like that is like the real contraband issue. I think more than anything is the dice. And again, it seems like a lot of the correctional institutional certainly read the letter of the law, not the spirit. And so if it says D&D is banned, they're like, no Dungeons and Dragons books, but this Pathfinder book or this Call of Cthulhu book or this Blades in the Dark book, sure, why not? Like you might not even recognize it as.
Look, if you're gonna ban any RPG in prison, I think Blades in the Dark might be the one you want to ban.
I mean,
if you were gonna be
Blades in the Dark,
we have one, you can ban one indie RPG and that's it. You can't ban any of the other ones.
Blades in the Dark has an entire incarceration system. Your character can go to jail.
Yeah, on the inside, you can become like a kingpin or other things like that while you're there.
That is true. Although you can't you can take the fall for your gang and then reduce their wanted level, which is very useful if you want to retire your character. I feel like the prison wardens and police would not appreciate the fact that the Duskval Guard are just described as the biggest and most dangerous of the beater gangs in the city. Exactly, they do. The blue coats are described that way. Yeah. Good, Mark. You've been reading your Blades in the Dark. Good on you, buddy.
I've read it before the first time we were on together, and I'm just trying to remember it.
Well, that's very good. But ultimately, I do agree with Guitar Guy Nick. I think they want to ban it because it provides entertainment to people in those situations. But there clearly must be a different element to that, right? Because they don't ban like books, right? Like you could read, you can watch TV. Like those are obviously all forms of entertainment. So,
but each one's different though. Like anything in life.
Is D&D so good of entertainment that they are like this is a bridge too far?
But like anything, I mean, I know schools that banned it. It's like,
I
think it's like, if like two or three people are doing it, sure. But when mass people and like, oh wait, all these people are doing it and getting enjoyment from it, time to ban it. It's like, D&D. Think about it. Every form of popular culture was banned in the beginning, more or less. In the last 100 years, you have comic books. Those were banned. And then you have the Comics Code. Movies, they were banned. D&D, that was banned. Video games, we're living through that. It's kind of disappearing. That was banned.
Do you think the mainstream zeitgeist that we're seeing with role-playing games then might change that perception?
I think it's what we were saying before the stream, is it mostly has to do with generations of who was growing up with what and what is considered just part of their culture and their background. And for example, like all these comic book movies and like all this geekdom that is now literally culture was what I grew up with. And the people who are in charge and are in power are my age, so they can say, you know what? I want to spend $1 billion on a Marvel movie because they're making the decisions and they have the power to do it. The people 20 years ago didn't, they didn't grow up with that, or maybe they did, but, they don't have the power to do it. So you have, more and more people that grow up, with Marvel movies and D&D, and you're seeing it in other forms of popular culture. It's hard to demonize D&D when it is everywhere. It's like, it's literally, Stranger Things, like second or first most popular streaming show in the world. You know, it's like it's hard to argue against that.
It's just so strange to me, this reasoning about leading to gang behavior.
Because that is an excuse. That is an excuse. That is all that is. That is literally, we want to ban it, and the reasons why. It's like gang behavior. I mean, how many times when I used to, big surprise, but Derik might be stunned. I used to get in trouble in school. I know this sounds hard to believe, but yeah, I actually did quite often. And many times.
A privileged kid who went to summer camp got in trouble at school? What? No.
I was not privileged. Everyone from Long Island went to summer camp. I hate to tell you. It was just what it was. Even my parents went, and they're like in the 60s or whatever. Anyhow, I lost my train of thought, buddy. You made me totally break my train of thought. Oh, and I would get in trouble, and I would sometimes then argue with them continuously over why I would get in trouble, and then it would just turn into just because. They would just make up rules. You know, they didn't want to define it. They didn't want to give me a reason. They just would. You know, why are you getting detention? You did this. Well, technically I didn't, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, you got to get, you know, and I'm like, it's so same thing. They just do it because they want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know, like, I mean, you know, again, the reality of prison life is obviously very extreme, and my exposure to it has been mostly through media. I had one cousin that was briefly in prison, but it was a low level offender. It was nothing.
I'd be curious though to see what else
max, like you said. But
yeah,
you know, I mean, ultimately, the idea, you know, of a bunch of people being like, man, we have nothing to do all day but sit around and play D&D. There's a certain point where you start to go, well, that doesn't sound half bad. You know,
that's what we were saying. We used to joke, man, that funny thing was like 20, 30 years ago. We used to be always joking about when we're sitting around that retirement community playing D&D every single day, and we couldn't wait.
Yeah, we were talking about
that. I'm getting there. I'm like, we're getting closer and closer. I was like, wow, this is turning into reality soon.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the KLC Patreon the other day because we were talking about like, I was like, oh, if I won the Powerball, I said we would just do. I said NightCon is free entry. Everybody can just go to NightCon. But I was like, but someone was like, yeah, that's going to be us at the retirement home. They're like, man, retirement homes are going to be sweet.
I think about that all the time. I was like, the thing that it's funny because I'm trying to set up some new games, some board games, and my friends here, it turned out just totally different. It used to be my friends that were single or just married with no kids. They had all the time in the world, and then my friends with kids were always busy. Well, now all my kids are going to college. My friends' kids are going to college. I was like, oh, do you guys have time? And my friends that all have their kids going to college, like, got tons of time, man. Got nothing to do. And all my friends that are single are like, I'm busy every single night for like the next 3 months. They got social plans. I guess they just got really busy. So now it's actually turning into an interesting dynamic of trying to find time to start this campaign. So I guess I still got a few more years to wait when when they have free time. But
so to wrap it up, then I would, at least for the prison specifically, I would say escapism is probably the main reason. You have a lot of time in your hand. D&D may be not as popular because of the name connotation, but Pathfinder certainly has found its niche.
What about thirsty sword lesbians? You think that's popular in prison?
I don't think TSL has made its way into the prison population. My guess is, by the way, they're playing PF1, not PF2.
That I would think so too.
My sense is that PF2 is probably harder to play than PF1 without miniatures. And so my guess is
I don't know. PF1 is pretty hard to do too. Like,
yeah,
they're both without
hard.
miniatures, and PF2 is a little easier.
But you do theater of the mind, Mark. How dare you?
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. Having done it in both, PF2 is a little easier, but they're both not easy.
I always bring that. PF2 has got some pretty fiddly ranges. 30 feet.
But
15
do you
feet.
Play it without miniatures? Have you played both of them extensively as your main thing without miniatures?
I have definitely played Pathfinder 1 without miniatures.
I've done 2. You do distances. You do like far, medium, short, and then you go, and then one movement is going from medium to short, and that
by the way, why those aren't just the rules now, I don't even understand why, but whatever. I understand why 4th edition did what they did, because they wanted to sell miniatures. Like they were like, hey, let's make the game literally playable on a grid, and we'll have everybody buying miniatures too. That's a whole separate conversation, but about what is the Matt Colville did a video today about like what is the point of D&D. It was actually a pretty good video, actually. And we always talk about this, about how games have like a specific element. I'm like, well, some games the point is to sell books, like that is why that book is made the way it is. And certainly there are certain elements of gameplay where I go, man, this really doesn't seem like this helps the game. It seems like this helps you sell splat books or miniatures or maps or grids, and 4th edition D&D was definitely a big instance of that. So anyways, I don't know. I wonder if they're playing Pathfinder 2 in prison, or if they're still playing Pathfinder 1. My guess is Pathfinder 1. Well,
what version of D&D are they playing?
3rd or 5th?
Not even 3.5. It's just 3rd, just 3.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's the one Derik liked between those two.
Yeah. No, they took all the 3 ebooks that everybody sold to Half Price Bookstore when they got their 3.5 books, and they said, well, we don't need these anymore. You got to respect 3rd edition for being so bold as to literally call something. I know that 4th edition gets derived as like the video game. They literally came out with something called 3.5. Like what? 3 years after it released?
Yes.
And then they said, buy every book again. Literally.
Because they did, and because it was a different market back then, because it was a small, very passionate market, as opposed to now, where
it's a huge passionate market. What are you talking about?
Oh God, it still is a small market compared to.
Well, not compared to back then.
Yeah, it is. Back then, it's incredibly small. It was.
That's what I'm saying, but now it's way huger.
Which is still really small comparatively.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but compared to what? Like when
compared
people
to
talk
other
about
forms of entertainment.
I used to work at a 25 now $40 billion company. Like when people are like, oh, we did $1 billion, like when like Wizards of the Coast talk about their sales, and like everyone's like, oh my God, they're juggernauts. I'm like, that wouldn't even buy my former company's, I don't know, paper supply for the year.
I know. And actually, I'm sick of this. That's like another topic, because everyone's like, oh, Hasbro did so poorly. D&D is tanking. I was like, actually, if you read the report, D&D is up 5% and Wizards is up 5%. It's all their other divisions that are tanking. It's just because one division is doing poorly doesn't.
The share price of Hasbro still dropped about half from its previous high.
Because, well, they've used the market, and so was Amazon, which is probably the safest bet in the world, and they're more than 50% off their previous high. So
I don't. And I'm not trying to like change the topic or anything like that. No, I'm saying, but I mean, I think the prison topic. I mean, at a certain point, I think we've said what we were going to say. I don't know if there's anything to point to that, but to the point of Wizards of the Coast, do you think oneD&D is a
not made for prisoners? I'll tell you that much.
I mean, of course it's a money play, but like, is it just like a corporate play?
oneD&D? Yeah. It's a corporate. They're all trying to make ecosystems. That is pretty much. Like, if you want to see a good example, is look at Adobe, and look at Adobe's profits. And in 2012, I believe they went to an online ecosystem where it's a subscription model, and their profits were like this. And they went to an online and went, woo, it went straight up. Because, and guess what? The same number of people were buying Adobe and using Adobe products. It's just they were all pirating them. And then once you got rid of the ability to pirate them and it became a subscription-only model, and they also gave all these different ways to subscribe through schools and colleges, and their profits are going straight up. And everyone who does this, every single model, when they go from there, it's basically flat. and if you can figure out a way to pirate or get rid of, get it any other way, they will. And as soon as you go to these ecosystem subscription models, the profits go straight up. And D&D, it's like they don't sell anything on PDF, because they don't want anything out of their ecosystem. They're gonna make it so locky and so behind so many firewalls that they're going to make sure that they get every penny, and probably try to get every penny 2 to 3 times on top of that, which is Nintendo's very good at that. It's like making you rebuy the same thing 3 times. So yeah, of course it is. And on top of that, the best part is you don't have to put out that much product. It's like you put out 5 books a year and you resell them 3 times to the same people. It's great. I mean, what a great model if you can get away with it. And
yeah,
look at Skyrim. I see Skyrim's been in the chat a million times. Skyrim, that's all they do. Remember when Bethesda used to actually come out with other video games? They don't need to. They just keep reselling you Skyrim 100 times, and it works. Look at Grand Theft Auto. Remember when Rockstar used to come out with a new video game and a new Grand Theft Auto or expansion every single year? Well, they haven't done that in 10 years. They don't need to, because they make billions of dollars off the same thing. You think Hasbro isn't gearing up to do that right now, where they're going to be like, oh, let's just figure out, we'll come out with these basic modules, and we'll come out with all these basic stuff that we can resell to everyone who bought it, and then the next generation, and make it evergreen forever, and have B1 through 3
all right, so,
over and over again.
So do you think that Pathfinder, Paizo being tied to this OGL is a problem for them for future revenue streams?
No, I don't think the OGL is the problem. You can still do OGL, but they're going to make it everything else. No, the OGL isn't the problem. As someone who literally defines OGLs in their products, they will make it that the images are not OGL, the 3D models are not OGL. Like, yes, the statistics of the monsters OGL, everything else is not. And that's how you get away with it. So, and that's how they're going to do it. So,
but I'm saying, like, is there a world where D&D just is not open anymore, and like they just completely close off all the third-party support?
No, because they make 50% profit on the third-party support, and they own everything. Sorry, they make 20%. They make 20% profit.
They make 20% through DM's Guild.
Right, through DM's Guild, and they own it all. And they make a lot of money on DM's Guild. No, what they're going to do is they're going to do the Apple model and the Amazon model and the everyone else's model, is they will make a marketplace on oneD&D where you can put up your own content. They get 30% of whatever you sell, and it'll probably have to go through some process, and they're going to make millions, if not billions, on that. And it just continuously helps. First of all, they only have to come out with a few modules, official modules a year on their own. Yeah, there's practically no overhead for digital products. And then everyone else makes the products for them, and then they just make money.
It sounds awful.
Yeah, it's going to be the future.
I know. Thank God they can't take my books away from me. That's all I'll say.
Oh, they're going to take them away from you.
No, they won't.
They're going to come in your house, and one day they're all going to disintegrate. They're going to... Let's do a new conspiracy theory. They're going to have the contrails in the sky that is going to put out something that disintegrates paper.
Stephen, you've already failed. I've gone full Fahrenheit 451 on them, and
really?
it's all I'm the 3.0 player's handbook, right? Like I am Lady Blackbird and Blades in the Dark. I'll just memorize every single book.
It should be possible. There's at least one person who memorized the entire Mahabharata, and that's going to be longer than some of these RPG books. So just get started now, Derik. You will become the last surviving copy of these books when the big corporations destroy all of the paper.
Yeah.
Why is the future so grim? The future it's not even, it's grim. It's just like, it's been like this for about 10 years, but it's been happening so slow that people didn't notice. Like, remember when everyone said, when subscription services become popular, that you're going to be paying way more for subscription services than cable? And everyone's like, oh, but that's not true. Well, guess what? It's 100% true. It turned out to be exactly true. It's like you have cable and you have subscription services, and you're paying way more for everything.
I mean, maybe you have cable and you have subscription services,
right? But my point is, okay, let me rephrase that. You have cable for the internet.
Yes, that's true.
And you have subscription services. Everyone has cable. They just have it for the internet now. And the subscription services ain't getting any cheaper. But yeah, they're all doing that. I do see some good.
I don't have a single subscription service at all.
Really? Nothing?
Nothing.
Wow.
Well,
you don't
Hulu,
have kids.
I have no Hulu, no Netflix, no that's why. Disney, no nothing. I have nothing.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That you're not the target audience. Anyone who has kids.
During the time he could be watching those, he's memorizing RPGs.
And you're spending 61 hours a month on talking to the internet and your YouTube channel.
A week.
Oh my God. 61 hours a week on Discord. It's even worse.
I calculate.
I spend maybe an hour a week on Discord. If that, not even.
Well, I spend 61 hours a week engaging with the RPG community, either through my live streams, which is about 5 to 10 hours a week of live streaming. And then I spend another 40 to 50 hours a week on my Discord.
So, by the way, John thinks that we're going to get pushback by WotC. I completely disagree. You know what? There was all this pushback about Overwatch 2. Remember Overwatch 2, which just came out a few weeks ago? By the way, Overwatch 1 sold 50 million copies over its lifetime, and it's been around for a long time. And they're like, Overwatch 2, terrible, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's going on and on about how terrible it was and how terrible it is and how it's the worst thing ever, and they should have never done it. 35 million people are now playing it. So yeah, they're doing real poorly. It's like, it's like, okay, you're right. They did have pushback. They went from 50 million people over 5 years to 35 million people in like 3 weeks. It doesn't exist. I hate to say it.
I'm interested in this dystopian setting that we're coming up with, where the big corporations take over and turn everything into subscriptions and destroy all books.
Listen,
a few people around the world that are called Melendas, after the first person to do this, who have memorized huge portions of books, they can reproduce them out loud or go on 5-hour rants about why they are criticizing the works.
The Mad Max series. Okay. You're gonna be one of those. You're gonna be like Mad Max, where they're like reciting the history.
I am not a Luddite. Okay, I have a smartphone.
You're a Melendite.
What I'm saying though is, like, you will never convince me, ever, that playing you could sit there and say, oh, but it's so much faster. Oh, but it does it for you. You will never convince me that like a digital board game is better than a board game.
Oh yeah, yes and no. I completely agree. I do like actual board games, but there are some board games that are just a good example was a game we used to play a lot called Titan. It's an older game, and Titan's very complex. It's got a lot of moving parts, kind of a nightmare, and it would take us hours to play it. And then they came out with the digital version, and we would finish a game in 5 minutes. It actually ruined the game for us because it was so automated. But like a lot of the fun was actually dealing with all the minutia.
I bet you could make it automated Candyland, that you just press the on button and then a millisecond later, it's like, oh, I blew one.
Yeah, well, exactly.
No decisions in Candyland.
I know.
So can I tell you something which actually kind of bothers me?
No. Oh, what bothers you? The world?
No, I don't. I haven't checked midterm election results yet, so I can't tell you the answer to that.
God, okay.
But here's something that bothers me. Believe it or not,
I don't believe it.
I do believe it.
I don't like, and a lot of people will say things like, "I love this." Some people I've even started to hear say, "I can't imagine playing the game any other way." I have grown to dislike how much automation and auto calculations and auto whatever that Foundry does for your Pathfinder 2 game.
You don't have to use it. In fact, I was just talking yesterday. I had a meeting with the Foundry team on the modules that I'm doing, and we were going through priorities, and I had the auto stuff as the lowest because I felt having things like map tools and links and cross links, that's extremely important. Oh, look at that, Derik. We lost you. You got to change your battery pack.
Oh man.
Oh man, Derik. I thought you were all set up. He's like, oh, I'm like, I'm from the future. I can do sound effects. I can do the most amazing things ever. Low battery pack.
Wow, John Bonanza.
John!
Bonanza.
Yay! Great stream, guys. I'm going to start driving to the office. So I won't be able to chat as much, but I'll stay listening. Yay, John. You are our favorite person ever. And in fact, Derik, start talking like Kermit. And to answer John's question as Kermit. John asked us a question. Oh, he's probably gone, man. Look at that.
Yeah,
he's totally
going to start
gone.
driving. He's not going to be able to type in his question.
I know. God.
Well, here's a possible question. What would we call the series that is based on memorizing books while all of them getting destroyed? Maybe Melinda, Book of the Fallen?
Yes, Melinda, Book of the Fallen. You know, I don't think books are going to get destroyed or anything like that. But the thing is,
neither do I.
No, of course
even
not.
Even Derik actually thinks that.
No, it's not really going to happen. Well, I was one of my majors in college was printing, and the reason is because I don't know if it's true anymore, but back in the 90s, that printing was something like the third highest percentage of the GDP. Because think about how many things are printed. Like everything's printed. Like it is a huge portion of life is having things printed in books and just advertisement. I mean, I think it's less now. Definitely it's gone down. But it is still a major aspect of life because you need things printed.
Nice. Thanks, John. That's
I
awesome.
know.
Super
John
chat.
was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, John is a fantastic supporter. We're big fans of him over at KOLC. Thank you, John.
Yeah, he was saying good job. Oh, what happened? You're back?
You know what's crazy about
what
that?
happened, Luddite?
You know what's crazy about here's what's crazy about that. My camera does not have a battery pack.
Oh.
It
That's how much technology was rebelling against you. It's like,
like
you're gonna get rid of our paper books.
Dissonance.
It is.
That was the technology god saying, you don't want a battery, you don't want paper anymore. Well, then we're gonna turn off your camera.
Yeah, it is plugged into AC power. It is continuous.
That was weird.
And actually, I don't turn my camera off. It's just always on. Anyways,
all day long, you and sending that information to the government.
And someone was not agreeing with what Derik was saying and hit the kill button.
Yeah, right.
Hit the kill switch.
But anyway, thank you, John. Appreciate it. What was I gonna say? John actually gave us some giveaway items for KOLC. He donated some books for us to do a Fate stream. But yeah, last thing, I was super excited about the Cortex Prime system until I found out it was digital only, not even PDF, but just a website. It's made by the people who made D&D Beyond. Is that true?
I think the
website is.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I think they own
D&D Beyond.
And I think if you put anything on it, they own it. And so people were like really rebelling against it. I remember that.
Interesting. I thought I owned a Cortex Prime book.
Maybe you printed one out and just went to Kinko's and got it that way. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I'm familiar overall with the Cortex system, but not with the business model for Cortex Prime.
Yeah, it's here. It's on Amazon. $64.99 Cortex Prime RPG game handbook hardcover. Yeah, I own this. I don't know. Maybe this is like an older edition or something like that. Yeah,
I don't know.
By Cam Banks.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, oh, there's going to be a rebellion. Well, DM's Guild, everything you publish there, you get 50% of the profit, and you own none of it. You give up all rights to it. Seems to be doing pretty damn well. I'll tell you that much. It's like
it's brutal.
I mean, that's brutal. It's like at least on like Apple and all these and Google and like all these other platforms or Amazon. Like you don't give up your rights. Okay, maybe you give up like 30% or 50% of the profits, but DM's Guild, no, they own everything. They own it. It's like you gave it to them. I'm like, wow, that is brutal.
Yeah, it's just tough. Yeah, I mean, but they've put you in a really tough situation because getting 50% of a lot is better than getting 100% of nothing.
I know, but you can go on Drive Through RPG and get 65% and you still own it. So
yeah,
but isn't Drive Through RPG owned by?
It's the same people, but it's a subset. It's like DM's Guild's like a subset.
There's got to be a technicality there. Listen, they're going to close that loop up real soon. Okay.
No, it's just DM's Guild.
No, it's because you get to use the IP.
You can use You can use all in DM's Guild. You can use the IP and you can use the look and feel.
I'm completely on board with Guitar Guy Nick. I think a 10% VIG is reasonable, and that's what they should do.
Well, Apple started, they made it 30%, and there's been a lot of fighting back. Now, you know what?
I mean, YouTube takes 30% of those super chats.
I mean, if you want somewhere that doesn't take a lot, like you can go to Itch, right?
All right, Itch.
Like itch.io. I think that you can like set the amount that they take or something like that, and they take a pretty small amount, but it doesn't get as much exposure, but that's where you should go if you want.
And Shopify, that's the best one. They take almost nothing.
I mean, speaking of Wizards of the Coast, at least, Rudy is a guy who runs a channel and a business called Alpha Investments. Talks a lot about Magic and Magic collectability and value and all this other stuff. And we've seen it now more and more and more and more. Wizards of the Coast is starting to do direct to consumer products only, or through their partnership with Amazon, which is basically a variant of direct to consumer, basically, because Amazon has so much volume. And now you have products in the Magic ecosystem which are skipping the local game stores. They are skipping the distributors, and they are direct to consumer only.
Yes,
because Wizards says we want every drop of that profit.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, the same reason is like everyone. I was just talking about this yesterday. It's like, I mean, this is a little different. I mean, first of all, what really bothers me, you know what bothers me? It's like you go to restaurants, now they charge you 4% if you're going to use your credit card, you know, like they just come out and say it. It's like, oh, you use your credit card, 4% higher, because we're not even, and you know, they're not even taking that fee anymore. It's like you have to pay it. And I got like a bill from the gardener the other day. I had a gardener like a million years, and now they charge you for the gas, and they're charging you for the truck, and I'm like, they're just fine because no one wants to raise their prices, so they keep the price the same, but they're just charging for every single thing they can think of, and it's the same thing. It's like, well, we already raised the price for Magic the Gathering, so we got to figure out a way to make more money. And we already have a digital, like I think about it, they're already doing co-branding. So co-branding, they can get money off of that. And they're already coming out with 1 million versions of Magic. And they already have a digital version. And they already, you know, like, okay, what else can we do? It's like, okay, well, let's go direct to consumer. It's like, you know, they're nickel and diming. They're literally nickel and diming, finding every nickel and dime they can get. Well, so you better believe them when that D&D 1 ecosystem comes along, they're going to be like, you want to play D&D? Here's where you play it, and we own everything. And it's a subscription model.
It's going to be $5 for that cool new gelatinous cube skin, and it's going to be
$10. You can get the Legend of Driss with all of the Driss characters added in.
Yeah, and when they start putting out those movies on a regular basis, they're going to be like, oh, all those cool new characters. Well, now you can play them and put them in your campaign, and here's the official adventure from that campaign and the prequel and everything else. $25, you know, or like, or whatever. I mean, I hate to say it, so I have actually been playing Marvel Snap a lot, and I actually really enjoy it. By the way, Derik, you should try Marvel Snap. Best card game mechanic I've seen since Magic. It's fantastic. You can play it and not spend $1, but of course they do have their seasons, and each season is a month, and this season is Black Panther, and damn it, I bought it. I mean, it was $9.99, but it's worth it. And I'm like, you get the Black Panther cards, and you get the Black Panther themes, and I'm like, that's where they're gonna go, man. It's like they're gonna come out with something every month for D&D, and they'll have a theme that you can buy.
And again, I can, you know, in the lifetime, the history that I have played RPG games, I think it's a safe bet to say that like 20% of your population is your game master, and like 80% of your purchases are made by that game master, right? I have played with so many people, some people who have played for years, and all they ever owned was a player's handbook.
And that's not nearly enough for them.
And
no way.
They're lucky if it's 20%. Game masters, they're apparently the D&D 5e is even more egregiously skewed in favor of players, and they have very few.
Right. We talked about that on this live stream where we said maybe that number is that ratio is more like 1 to 10 or something crazy. And John said in before the D&D battle pass, but that is the market segment. You look behind Stephen, you look behind me, you talk to a lot of the people in this channel who are probably maybe honestly game masters, and you say, I don't get it. I'm buying a new book. It feels like every month I buy the Tashas, I buy the Xanders, or whatever.
Well, I know I know I'm the very rare. I'm rare.
I buy all the Lost Omens, and then I also buy the Lost Omens collector's editions. Right, all fine.
I don't buy the collectors, but yeah.
Oh, we got plenty of people who in our Discord.
I know a lot of people that I don't, but yeah.
But the problem is that is the very small amount, typically, in my experience, the game masters. The thing is, how do you monetize the players? Because the problem with being a player has always been, in my experience, a player goes and buys, I don't know, insert new splat book here. They go and buy Dark Archive because they're really excited about playing a psychic, or they want to play a thaumaturge. And then their GM says, well, I don't own that book, or I'm not allowing that. So me owning this book doesn't really do anything for me per se, at least not in the campaigns that I'm running.
Well, yeah, D&D right? Online's already been doing that because they sell you custom dice and custom pictures and avatars. So that's what and backgrounds, total nonsense stuff.
Well, what I think they would imagine that they would want to be able to do is create the D&D equivalent of standard in Magic the Gathering, right? Mm-hmm. Where they say, hey, look, no, you can play legacy D&D, vintage D&D, where anything goes and you can play whatever you want, and your GM is free to disallow or allow whatever they want to allow. But this is standard D&D. And if you're playing standard D&D, you got to follow the rules. And if you have a license or battle pass to be able to play this class or ancestry, then by God, you get to play that class or ancestry, right?
Well, yeah. And not only that, that's why they're whoa, why are they using a 3D program, like a very sophisticated 3D program for their VTT? Because they want this to be a video game where you can buy those characters. Like, look at how well... what's that called? The one where you make the Hero Forge. Hero Forge is doing incredibly well. Can you imagine? I wouldn't be surprised if Hasbro buys out Hero Forge and then uses all of those 3D models in their system and then makes it that you can do everything. You're like, okay.
Let me put it this way. Yeah. We started a few months ago a D&D 5 edition D&D 5e campaign on Fridays. Mm-hmm. Very heavily house ruled. We started with 5 torches deep, and then we expanded a million variant rules on top of it that I included that I created. And we did it theater of the mind. We did it to make it quick, easy. We had one guy playing in a hybrid, so we were all in person, but we had one person that was remote. And we said it'll be easier. And literally, one of my players, Aaron from my channel, was like, "Man, damn!" And I go, "What?" He goes, "I get it, but I wanted to be able to go to Hero Forge and buy a $75 mini." He was disappointed that because we were playing Theater of the Mind, there was no reason for him to go and buy a $75 mini. And these fully painted Hero Forge minis are insanely expensive, and people buy them like they are.
They got that going. Yeah, they're going out of stuff.
It's unreal.
I would put money that Hasbro will buy Hero Forge if I'm going to do my 100% accurate predictions. I'm predicting they're either going to make their own, but it's probably... This is what they're probably going to do. This is what's going to happen. They're going to go to Hero Forge, try to buy them. If they can't work it out or the price is too high, they'll say, okay, fine, they'll just make their own. They'll just do it that way. Because I can't see how they wouldn't. Because then again, it's as you said, you can sell to the player, and then it all comes around is that you make these 3D models in the online in oneD&D, and then also sell the physical copies again for another $100, and you just keep selling over and over again. It's amazing, a brilliant strategy, if I must say so myself.
Boy, it's horrible. I mean, maybe.
I didn't say it was a good strategy for you as the player. I'm saying it's a brilliant strategy for Hasbro to make money.
Yeah. But there has to be, right? I mean, like, for example, I mean, we've seen signs of it. We've seen people talking about it, even within our own small community. People who have said, hey, listen, sorry, we're cutting back on all of our patrons, all of our unnecessary expenses. Times are tough. You know, wages are low, prices are high. We can't afford this. You know, I wonder, you know, if with D&D, if they're just pushing too much too fast. Like there's a part of me that wonders.
I don't think they are, because it's a world. Don't forget, they don't have to worry about distribution channels anymore. This can go worldwide. So yeah, things might be tough right here, but maybe in Japan or maybe in Malaysia or something where they're doing fine, and suddenly D&D explodes. And yeah, I mean, this happens a lot, quite frankly.
I'm just saying, I wonder to a certain extent, I wonder if D&D, if the bloom is sort of off the rose. For example, I understand that, like, for many of us, D&D is a lifestyle. It is a part of who we are. We are sticking through it through thin and thin. And I can't help but wonder, you know, let me give you another example. My Patreon. In our periods of greatest growth, where we were attracting the most new patrons, we also had the highest turnover, because a lot of those patrons would join and they'd say, you know, look, I'm not invested in this community the way that some of these other people are, so it's not really a big deal for me to leave it. That's fine. I can't help but wonder if 5th edition and the explosive growth that we've seen over the last 5 years, maybe because of pandemics, maybe because of Critical Role, maybe because of Stranger Things, but a lot of those people who got in because of Critical Role or because of Stranger Things or whatever, they weren't getting into the hobby for life, right? They were getting into the hobby the way that I got into Pog in middle school.
Yeah, no, these are people who are playing it, but you have to start somewhere, and you will get a few people who get into it, try it, and decide, hey, I really like this. And I've had a lot of friends over the years, especially, you know, growing up, where I had a lot of female friends who were growing up and playing things. I remember this, like, I was on the chess team in school, and we had one of the best players on our team. She was female, and then halfway through the year, her parents made her quit because it wasn't feminine enough. And made her quit the chess team. And my vice president for my old company, she ended up being one of the biggest geeks I've ever met in my life. And she didn't even use a computer. She brought a typewriter to college. She didn't even start using a computer until she was in her late 20s, and discovered not only did she's really good at computers, and like really like stunningly good, she was a hardcore geek and just was not exposed to this world in any way, shape, or form.
Listen, I appreciate that there's going to be some percentage. I'm just saying, I wonder if maybe, you know, I mean, I know that you were saying that's based on channels and different elements of Hasbro, and I know that's why whatever they were called, Alta Capital, wanted to spin off WotC. Right,
because the rest of Hasbro is bringing them down right. And they'll never do that, because that's what's saving Hasbro, because Hasbro would like go out of business if it wasn't for WotC saving their ass, basically.
It's my understanding that they tried to hostily do it.
They tried to do it hostily. That's very common, by the way. That happens all the time.
Actually, Ben Starr is a Magic the Gathering player. They actually put him on the board because he was the one. Anyways, but I wonder if there is a market correction in D&D, that that there was such an explosive growth that they
I don't think there will be. That's also a myth, is that market corrections happen either because things are bad. I've actually 99% Invisible just did something on this, on the difference between like fads versus lifestyles, and this is not a fad. Not only is it a lifestyle, but it has been a multi-generational part of the zeitgeist. And I tell you, they're going to do a big, massive, insane push in 2024 between the movie and the 50th anniversary. And the thing is, this is the thing. There might be backlash, and you know how there's like backlash and there's backlash of the backlash. It's like, okay, maybe they have 100 million people. Oh, there's a backlash. We go down to 90 million or 80 million. okay, you know, like they won't be thrilled, but it's not like, oh, they're going to go from 90 million people to 10 million. It just doesn't happen.
But I mean, I'm just saying that, like, when, you know, when grocery bills have doubled, right, when gas prices are up, like, and people's wages are stagnant, I question whether or not Wizards of the Coast trying to move to some sort of monthly sub system is going to be the right move for them. Like, suddenly you're going to have people who are expecting to pay $20 to $30 a month.
Well, first of all,
play D&D, so that you can get $300-400 a month
so the average,
or a year from them. I don't think that's going to work out in their favor the way things are moving.
Perhaps the average bear market only lasts 18 months. Right. I know it feels a lot longer, but it's only 18 months.
Oh, I agree.
And these average recessions usually only last a year or two. So it's very.
So you're saying right as we go into Gen Con 2024, we'll be pulling out.
Believe it or not, yeah. And also, here's the thing: we're actually not. Jobs have been up. Wages have been all this stuff. This is a whole other thing I can get into because I literally talk about this all the time in my day job. What the perception of what's going on and what's really happening is not the same, by the way.
Right. No, I agree. There's a lot.
We're almost out of time.
I know, but we are talking about. But I see what you're saying is that. But you know what? They have to plan for the future, and you're right. Maybe economic times are going to be tough, but they have to start the foundation. And D&D is low cost of entertainment per hour. That is very low cost. And you know what? Going to a movie now is $20-$30 per ticket.
Sure.
You can buy, if I can buy an entire module for $25, I'd probably do that instead.
You know me. I have always gone on record as saying I think that these books could be double their cost.
They're way too cheap.
Insanely.
They're way too cheap. Well, they're all going to 60, and it's funny because now.
Well, when inflation happens and everyone moves their prices up more than the inflation amount, for some people, like the tycoons of grocery stores, it's it's corporate greed. But with the D&D and Pathfinder books going up like that, it is just they're trying to find any way to correct for what is obviously an underpriced product compared to other products.
Insanely underpriced.
Super underpriced. You know that I've talked about that with you before, Derek, and how it costs less now than it did per word than it did in 1974.
Yeah, exactly.
Without inflation, just
period. I mean, I can't remember what it was, but the original, Zero D&D, little black, little pamphlet books in the box, I think adjusted to current prices, it was $75.
And even if you use the actual price and calculate how many words were in it, it was cheaper.
Right.
And black and white.
Right. But then they were happy when they sold 1,000 copies. Keep in mind, though.
True.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right.
But so since we only have a few more minutes, how about a 7 minutes old breaking news that I just saw while the episode was going on? Apparently, Luis Loza is now the creative director of rules and lore for Pathfinder 2e.
Oh.
Okay. Wait, all rules and all lore?
The creative director, keep in mind, that is not necessarily above the director of game design.
Okay.
Who knows what the Paizo org chart is?
Well, but they have to start moving people up.
Director of rules and lore.
It lost so many people.
They've already indicated that there's a rules and lore team because one of the new developers that came in said that they were a developer for the rules and lore team, which sounds like.
Was that Vanessa?
No. She said she was joining the narrative team, also a team that didn't exist back when I was at Paizo. So it looks like sounds like there's going to be a restructuring overall. And when I was at Paizo, I was suggesting that, for example, I literally suggested when I was the design manager that, since I worked with Lost Omens, that, the rules and lore could work together. So maybe they did the thing that I had been talking about. If there's a rules and lore team and Luis from Lost Omens is creative director of it and put Lost Omens in with the other hardcovers. I mean, that would make sense, certainly.
That would make sense.
Then that's just a lot for one creative director. So in that case, James Jacobs has always been the Pathfinder creative director. So maybe he's going with the other part, and Luis is going with the rules and lore. And Thurston Hellman, Thirsty is the managing creative director of Starfinder. So maybe they have 3 now instead of 2.
It's interesting.
We'll have to look in the Paizo books to see.
It's an interesting combination, rules and lore. You kind of almost think 2 separate things, kind of.
sort of, but rules books often have some lore, and lore books often have a lot of rules, whereas like the adventures that Paizo puts out are a huge percentage of what they do and are a little different than the Lost Omens
well, for
books.
Paizo, the rules and lore are one and the same in many ways.
Well,
I know, and I hate it.
I guess I'm saying that Book of the Dead, right, or
I'm gonna make a T-shirt.
Gears are more similar to, and I'm going to cheat and pick one that shouldn't have even been in the Lost Omens line. Lost Omens Ancestry Guide, clearly an actual rule book, but even the other ones in there, than they are to adventure paths, which are similar to like the modules and the other adventures. So I can see, like, I mean, when I asked for that distribution like a year ago, it was that was the idea. Like about half of what Paizo does is adventures, and about half of what it does isn't adventures, and there are similarities between those two halves. So
I'm gonna make a T-shirt. Maybe I can wear it by Gen Con. I'll have a picture of Derek's face on it. It'll say on the back, "I hate it."
Is it like the critic? It stinks.
It stinks. It's like, I hate it. Oh, so the Poppet Adventure. What's going on with the Poppet Adventure, Derek?
I don't know yet. We got to put it together though.
I think Mark can write it. Mark can do it.
We have some ideas. I think we still have to 100% confirm who's running it. There was some ambiguity.
Mark would have to run it if he wrote it.
Mark, I would not do that to you. I would not do that to you, buddy.
It's easy. He's good at it. He makes things up on the fly.
Oh, did you, Stephen? You watched that? You watched what we did to Bob on that in that stream, didn't you?
Yeah, but Mark could last longer in prison than me. Going on that stream is like being in prison. I brought it back.
My chameleon abilities
tonight. That's it. I'm done. I'm off.
No, I mean, I was able to handle Stephen when I was like, all right, you guys are
I was
and then
brutal.
Stephen's like, I hate drinking, I hate bar hopping. I'm not gonna.
And I'm gonna steal from the bar on top of that. I was as disruptive as you can be, buddy.
But yeah, we can talk about that. But I also think there's we'll see who's running it. I don't know. We may have some ideas. I mean, because there's been a lot of ideas tossed around. Like, do we want to really lean into the Poppet theme, or do we, the Christmas theme? Thought there was idea. There's
a Christmas Poppet theme on top of it.
Yeah, I remember that because of the fact
the Land of Lost, the Broken Toys, or whatever that was.
About the Christmas Muppet Christmas thing, and I was
my God,
no one had seen
we
Muppet
make
Christmas
a new
more times than Linda.
Muppet Ancestry and add that in there too?
I mean, it could just be a Muppet heritage for Poppet.
Heritage. Muppet heritage for Poppets. We can make new heritages for Poppets. We can have the Marionette Poppet. We can have the Kermit the Frog Muppet Poppet. We're gonna get every Poppet imaginable.
Derek. Bestiary Strange and Unusual has like a creature called Atoning Spirit that is literally like the ghost of Christmas presents.
That's right. We're gonna get it all in there, baby.
And so I was thinking if we did a Christmas Poppet thing, that I would
Poppet
use the Atoning Spirit from
there you go.
Strange and Unusual as one of the
they're all
components.
Oh my God, they're all in Santa's workshop.
You're getting way too excited about this.
They do not want to be toys that are given out. So they're going to do a prison break out of Santa's workshop, and they get all the other toys. It's kind of, that's kind of Toy Story 1, by the way. But anyhow, Toy Story 1, and then they all got to figure out how to get out, and you got to like use candy canes, and you got to use like the reindeer, and you got to figure out how to like distract Santa and get past all the elves. This is great.
Right. Clearly you are on the right path because you just described everything that I would hate.
Oh boy.
There you go. I'm getting excited now.
But nothing makes us as much money as when I am in pain.
Well, then I literally you're going to make a mint.
We can make a wheel of Derik Woe where I put different things that Derik puts on the wheel, and when they pay enough money, we spin it and we throw in something that Derik will not like, depending on what we spin.
I hate it. And we're all going to wear the T-shirts.
Like it lands and it goes. The next combat encounter, the GM won't roll dice, but will instead use what they feel is dramatically appropriate for this in particular encounter, while respecting your character's intended story arcs.
There we go.
I'll be like, no.
Ooh, a furry ancestry. Yep, we got a furry ancestry.
But
all right.
Anyways, I think originally we were talking about maybe when we were thinking about building it, we were talking about only using monsters out of like the BZB and doing a like an RFC trip.
Yeah, we know that quite well since the Jewel of the Indigo Isles only uses monsters from the BZB.
We can get you some from the Strange and Unusual if you want.
We even have the new ones and have art.
We'll do some kind of collab.
Wheel of Derik Woe is permanent. Yes. That could be the other T-shirt. The Wheel of Woe, Derik Melinda.
By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to what I consider to be the most reasonable comment. The most reasonable person on YouTube that I have ever encountered in my entire existence.
Thank you.
No way.
No.
Wow, even Mark's like, no way. Damn, Mark.
So somebody the other day must, after many months, came across episode 23 of our episode 32 of our Rise of the Rune Lords campaign, aka the Hookabout Massacre, aka spoiler alert, the TPK. And this person wrote a comment where they basically said, I know that this channel has talked about how death and TPKs could be part of the fun of the game, but blah, blah, blah. Just because people are donating insane amount of money for game-breaking buffs to the enemies and stupid things that massively screw with the encounter balance while the GM laughs and cheers sounds like the worst thing I've ever seen to happen. It's cool that the GM made some money, but what an unsatisfying way to end the campaign. And I don't really usually respond to comments like this. I usually just heart them. But I said, you know what? That it was a very crazy ending, but let me put out a couple points. Number one, my players are part of my LLC. They are members of this company. We're doing this for profit. They're paid. Mm-hmm. If the episode makes money, they make money. They're paid regardless. I said two, our actual play generated almost no views and no donations and no tips until we sort of added some of those game show elements on there. And while I agree that it did take an unexpected turn, it was just going to be canceled because it was so unprofitable, not worth the time that we put into putting it in and the money that I was paying to people to play it. And I said, and three, it did generate a lot of revenue that we used to be able to pay off debt that we had accumulated to build the channel and to upgrade our audio visual and all those other systems. So it was really, really important to us. And the person responded back, and this person said, I'll be honest, my statement that I made was very unfair of me to say. Clearly this is a business and you're all making this decision. This wasn't just made simply on the whims of a tyrannical GM. Hearing that you guys were struggling with the campaign does change the framing quite a bit. I've only watched the first few episodes of this campaign and was pretty disappointed to see it end like this. But after reading this, my mind has been changed and I will probably go back and continue to watch. And I was like, holy God, I can't believe it happened. There was a reasonable person on the internet. And I was like, you know what, that is, that is sort of, reinstilled my belief in the internet and humanity.
So
you got 30 seconds to wrap that up, Mark.
Missed the stream and why is D popular in prison, but I really have to go. So what is the TLDR, Derek?
The TLDR is, much like the military, much like socially awkward middle school kids, Dungeons and Dragons is a popular form of escapism, and it's a great way to sort of easily build a lot of entertainment from a very small package. One rule book could provide thousands of hours of play, and if you can get around some of the restrictions that prison might put on you, like dice being contraband because of gambling, but there's plenty of ways that you can be creative and innovative and get around that, and it's just a great tool for escapism and power fantasy. And it just makes sense. And I also think there's a therapeutic element to it. I think role-playing games can be very beneficial for a lot of people. And I imagine that someone who is, doing their act of contrition via their imprisonment in the U.S. federal prison system or justice system, is one of those people that I think especially might respond well to that. And maybe that is why they also find it to be such a therapeutic thing. But I think it comes down to it's portable, it's quick, it's simple, it's easy. It can go for a long time. And that's why we see it so popular in the military and in prisons and in places like that. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, take care, everybody. I've got to go.
Derek and I will just keep going for another 3 hours.
That's fine.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
He really went. He went. He broke the whole stream. All right.
Well. All right, guys. We'll see you. I'll be on tomorrow. By the way, everybody. Thursday. Everything's screwed up, but I'll be on tomorrow, Thursday.
Yeah, we're
going to be doing. Archetypes. We're going to keep doing archetypes. Originally, I thought it was only going to take us like 3 or 4 live streams to get through all the archetypes. Turns out I have a lot to say, and it'll probably end up taking us more like. I don't know, 15 5 or 6 or 7 streams to get through all the archetypes. Turns out there's a lot of them. Maybe there's just a lot that are front loaded in the alphabet. And it also turns out that I have a lot to say about them. So, but that's what we're doing tomorrow.
There you go. And I'm just working. Actually, we have new things coming out for Foundry. We have Jewel the Indigo Isles is going to be coming out with Foundry any day now, and Roll20. So we have those all nearly complete. They're actually done. We're just like literally waiting for them to be approved, and then they go live. And I'm working on the Indigo Isles character guide for 5e. The PDF is ready. Let's see what else we're doing. See, I'm doing all this, and you can't even get a logo done, man. And I'm doing Joel the Indigo Isle Adventure 2 for 5e. That is half done. And I have chapters 5 and 6 done. I just got to finish 7 and 8. Although we found out we didn't have all the monsters written. We're like, where are the monsters for 5e for this adventure? We're like, oops, we forgot them. Luckily, my 5e team is very fast, so they're going to have them done in a few days, and then I'll get them in there. And then that should hopefully be out within about a week or so. And then, oh my God, I can't believe it. The original Kickstarter is almost done, because then the only thing left is the final adventure for Indigo Isle. I mean, I have to print the book, but that's just a technicality, and there's not a lot I can do about that. I literally just hand it off to the printer and wait. So that's just like me waiting. But all the creative work will be done for that for that Kickstarter. Thank God.
Yeah, our plan. Let's see. We got this month. We want to wrap up book 1 of Quest for the Frozen Flame, and then we'll probably take a break over the Christmas holidays because people have kids and families and travel and all that, stuff that holidays happen, crazy schedule. I'm going to be going to Vegas again too, so that kind of screws it up.
You going to Vegas?
Third time this year.
Oh my God, why? I love Vegas, by the way.
Well, because I love Vegas.
I love Vegas so much. Man, you got to tell me. I'll go with you. Oh, I love Vegas. I love it. I've been there so long. Although I play poker tournaments, which take a while.
Yeah, it could take a while. I just mostly just play like Paizo and craps. But I
play craps. I don't play Paizo. That's a bad.
Paizo's great.
Bad odds.
I mean, yes, it's not as good as craps, but anyways, but yeah, we're going to finish up book 1 for Quest for the Frozen Flame. Yeah. We've got about 2 or 3 sessions of that left. We're going to finish that up. And then a lot of the stuff that we're going to be focused on is going to be actually really focused on our Patreon. We have our Northern Reaches season 1 is ending here this month, and we've got a lot of big things.
I want to do the new one. That's where everyone plays together, right?
Yeah.
I want to do that.
So one of our season ending events is actually a 30v1 mega raid versus
I helped you build that. How that you're still building that?
Oh, no, that's my thing. This is a different thing. This is 30 PCs at once versus one huge white dragon named Valax, the Queen of Winter. So one of our patrons actually designed an entire custom subsystem just for this one battle. Wow. It's going to be like a 10-hour event. Cool. So we're, and then in December, we're going to be doing our year-end rewards and all stuff for our patrons. I gotta pick a winner. Someone from my Patreon is winning a custom, however they want it, handmade gaming table made by me, delivered by me.
Holy moly. I want that.
Well, you're a member of the Patreon, Stephen. You have a chance to win. Actually, the length of your membership and the amount of your tier determines how many basically raffle tickets you get. And I'm going to pick somebody, and then we're going to work with them to custom build them a game table. I'm a woodworker. I build fine furniture, and then we're going to get it. We're going to put it into a covered trailer. Me and a couple of the knights are going to drive it to this person. We're going to build it, assemble it for you.
Well, if they live like in Mexico or something.
Continental United States only.
Okay.
And then we're gonna play, and then hopefully we're gonna play some games, board games, role-playing games, whatever you want, and make it into a fun little vlog series as we go and do it. So I mean, it might not be delivered obviously until next year, probably like the spring, but we're gonna work with the person to basically within a certain amount of region build someone a custom table.
That's whatever a good idea. I should do something like that. I should have an awards ceremony and give something away to people.
Ollie says, what makes a table a gaming table? Ollie, that's a great question. For a lot of people in today's day and age, a gaming table usually refers to the style of table that started coming out from Wormwood, which is called a vault, which is typically a table that has a recessed playing area that you can cover with leaves so that you have an ordinary table. You take off the leaves and now you have a recessed vault. I think this is fantastic. Well, it's fantastic for puzzles. It's pretty good for board games. I actually don't think it's that great for role-playing games.
Yeah, I think it's way better for board games and puzzles.
It's way better for board games, way better for puzzles.
Oh, what happened to Wormwood in their Kickstarter? Wasn't it like
failed?
They pulled it. They pulled it. Wow.
They pulled it. They decided to pull it early rather than have the shame of not reaching. So their Kickstarter was 3 million, and I think they only got to 2.1. So they pulled it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, Ollie, exactly like a craps table in Vegas. But imagine if you had wooden leaves that you could set on top of the craps table just to turn it into an ordinary table. It's really fun for board games to have like the recessed area. You know, there's certain elements. It keeps the dice in.
Well, what can I can just get one from IKEA. They sell things like that.
Oh, they do. But the furniture I make is, you know, all handmade hardwood and
so the stuff from IKEA. It's handmade by machines. You know.
That being said, I have made several regular tables that don't have a vault for gamers. But when I make them and I work with this person to design, usually what changes is the dimensions. The standard table is made for dining, and gaming tables tend to need to be wider than a usual dining table is, because usually you want to have about 12 to 15 inches in front of a player for their sheet, their book, their tablet, their laptop, another 12 to 15 inches on the opposite side. And then between the two players, sometimes you want as much as 30 to 36 inches to fit things like a Chessex battle mat or a television or a pre-printed vinyl mat or whatever. So the game boards the tables tend to be a weirder shape than you could traditionally
they also have,
get.
like slots for drinks on the sides. And,
correct. They're a little bit more casual.
And they have like things for dice, and some have like secret chambers where you can pass notes. And
so
I've seen a whole bunch of them.
There's some fun stuff that you can do with them. And really it comes out, I think it's just a cool idea. Guitar Guy Dick, Derik, for international people, as a suggestion, you could sell the designs for other people to build. Maybe. Well, Guitar Guy Dick, I mean, if I make the designs, I would just give them away to people who are interested. It's not like my profession or anything like that. It's just a hobby. If one of my patrons wins it, who is an international person, they are just going to get a cash prize. I have no other way to. I have no other way to deliver it. Now, to be fair, the cash prize is much different than the value of the table. Like, you're getting a lot more because it doesn't, I might sell a $6,000 table, but the material cost to me might only be like $1,000.
Wood's pretty expensive right now.
Well, yeah, but
and you're gonna make it out of mahogany, right?
I will probably limit it to domestic hardwood species: walnut, maple, oak, ash, that kind of thing.
Not the expensive stuff.
No, mahogany is actually depending what genuine mahogany is almost impossible to get because there's a trade embargo. But like Honduran mahogany is actually fairly affordable. Or we fly to Europe and you build it here. Well, Ollie, it's the metric system over there. I might be a little off.
That's true.
But that being said, I use a lot of tools from Festool, and they're a German company, and all of their tools are in millimeters only. So I do actually use a lot of stuff.
I don't think it's really that hard.
It's not actually. I prefer millimeters. I've been raised my whole life in inches, and so it's just much easier. But anyway, so that we're doing that. That's a big giveaway, and then we also have prizes for just people who have run the most games on our server and everything like that. So it's going to be just like a real fun holiday period for us. And pretty much, I'm taking all of my budget that I get for December, and I'm just giving it away.
Wow, nice.
So, yeah, fun times at Night's the Last Call. So, and then we are going to start to try to make the first inklings of planning, possibly, for NightCon.
As soon as you said, I knew. Well, if you need someone, I actually I have friends who run conventions.
Yeah, I mean, this would be less than 100 people. That's the main thing, right?
You'd be surprised. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had baby cons here, like we used to do it in Manhattan a lot because there used to be a thing called New York Geek. And they would meet every month, and we would play games. And there was a fair number of people at this thing, more than you would think. It was very popular, but it took a lot of coordination. It's a lot harder than you think.
That's the main thing. And I mean, Steve, I mean, you can certainly appreciate this, but it's like, obviously for most people understand that, Night's the Last Call is not my job, right? I mean, it's a hobby that takes up like 40 plus hours a week. But, and we certainly obviously make, actually I've got to start doing the accounting to actually see if I made money this year. I don't actually know if I did.
Damn.
But overhead's a bitch. I don't. It's like I said, we did the math. I think we have 14 Forge servers, right? Those are the AWS hosted Foundry. We have 14 different ones that we pay for monthly, so that all of our people can run games.
Well, you're better than me. People can run it themselves. They don't need Forge. You can just run it. Just pay the $50 and get Foundry.
And we have 14 licenses for each of those servers. So we have 14.
No, I work with Foundry. I get those with a discount.
Well, we've paid full retail. Yeah, too late now. We've paid full retail for all 14. All of our servers have full Game Master access so that you get the full, because we need it, because we have literally dozens of Game Masters running. I mean, sometimes we run 3 or 4 or 5 games a day. So it's just we need all the space that we can get. But anyways, so we're going to be doing some fun giveaways.
No wonder you have no free time.
I know. Well, I don't have kids, and that's why I feel bad. My two main co-conspirators, Bob and Aaron, they both got young kids, so
it's going to get worse.
It's going to be tough work. Anyways,
well, you have a kid. It's called Knights of Last Call.
That's right. Yes, but it's a grown child.
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you have to baby it every day.
No, they're fairly resilient people. That's what makes it so good. I mean, we've been very lucky. I don't know what it is. Based on your chat as well, I think you guys attract a very similar group of people. We tend to avoid sort of some of the worst elements of the hobby. There are
we don't have those. Those people get banned immediately.
Yeah, so
I have my ban hammer is near instant. You probably do the same thing. I'm very fast.
I have only ever had to ban one person.
I don't think we have only had 1 or 2, and most, I don't even know. I can't even remember. It's happened so rarely, and this was happening on other boards. It wasn't like, oh, they were just bad on our board. It was like, oh, they were having issues on the Paizo board and like the PF2 board, like it was multiple boards, and then they were banned. So not just us. So that's and then but we do have people who do have real life issues who then leave. That I've had, like, they just disappear, like, off the entire Discord, which is kind of odd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think right now we're at 251 or something like that, or 252 patrons.
Oh my God.
And good. we have had lifetime 370. So we had 370, and 120 of that 370 have at some point in time quit or left.
Yeah.
And we have about 251. But I
don't have patrons, but I just sell product. A little different.
Well, right. I mean, that's also pretty nice. So, well, maybe someday, Stephen, then you can really mock
freaking
me
hard.
Oh, dude,
you're putting in one thing a month, and it's hard as hell.
We're switching to like probably every other month.
It's it's hard as hell.
No, you told me, and you were correct. Yeah. I will definitely bow to that.
It's hard. It's too hard. Like once you get it's just, yeah. Whenever someone would start a podcast or anything, and I'm like, the first 3 are always the easiest.
Yes,
it's like after that, we'll see. It gets really, really hard after the first 3, and then it only gets harder. Yeah, because it's like because you always have a couple good ideas, and then it's the 50th idea.
I gotta tell you, I really respect the content creators who are out there. Like Mark Roper is one of them. Stuff Made Here is another one. These are people who only put out 12 videos a year. That's it. They put up 1 video a month.
Right.
And it's, it's very high production costs. Obviously, these are people getting millions of views, so they can afford to do it with great sponsorships and stuff. But they really focus on creating a fantastic product, almost like a Mythbusters episode, really, and but it's only once a month. And I definitely respect that model of distribution. I understand that it's not plausible to do that model unless you literally have millions of
chicken
views.
And egg. It's like, how do you get the millions of views? So
right, exactly. Well, and that's the thing that ultimately I feel so badly about the internet, which is all these people who are just putting in thousands of hours of work every year and getting close to next to nothing out of it. And you have a system, YouTube, which is they don't care, right? Like if you spend 1,000 hours on your video or you spent 20 minutes on your video, YouTube's like, whatever. If it makes some views, we make some money. If we run some ad revenue, we get some money. Like, it doesn't matter to them how much time you put in. All they care about is, did you create content for our platform for people to watch and stay engaged with? And then you have viewers who would just go, hey, this is cool. This is free. I could consume this content. And it's like,
I mean, you don't have to tell me. I sit here all day watching YouTube and I can't even believe I don't know how everyone knows video production. That's what I can't get over. I'm like, how is it that every person on planet Earth is an expert at video production? I'm good at a lot of things. That's not one of my best ones, which is ironic because actually I am very good at animation and I'm very good at interactive products, but I don't think I have the time and patience for video. Like editing. I think that's it. It's like I just don't have the time and patience.
It's definitely its own unique skill set. There's certainly,
it's so much work,
and it takes so much work.
It's so much work. It's excruciating.
To go back to the beginning of how my channel started, we used to do Rise of the Rune Lords, Pathfinder 2, and we did it in person, live. Well, not live. Sorry, we did it in person, and I would record. And I would have 5 different cameras recording different
I remember
angles.
It was very nice.
Okay.
It was very impressive.
It would take us 5 hours to do the session, which was about maybe 3 hours or so, 4 hours of actually playing. And when all was said and done, I had 5 cameras times 4 hours. I had 20 hours of footage. It would sometimes take me 12 to 16 hours.
Oh yeah.
Just to produce a single video. And when we first did that, we'd get 40 views, and then you click on that view and you see the average watch time of your 3.5 hour video.
Trust me. It's
7 minutes, 7 minutes. And you're like,
I know.
Okay, cool.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly. It's brutal.
And here's the thing, like, I'm just like, oh, okay. Now maybe it was luck. Pathfinder 2, maybe Bob is just so damn charismatic or whatever. We were lucky and we started to get some traction fairly quickly. And whatever, we did pick up some momentum. Now we still weren't making any money. We didn't even get monetized until like a year later. But I see people who have been doing that for years. Like, you go to their channel and you realize they have produced 700 videos.
Yep.
And they consistently, like, a video a week for 4 years, and you're like, and you still are just getting 600 views or 300 views on a video.
Well, and I go the other way is that I'll see someone, I'm watching these videos and just people with 1 million subscribers. And I'm like, who are these people? How does all these people have 1 million subscribers? And it's very common. It's mind boggling.
And by the way, I'm not even saying this as like a jealous hater or something like that. I'm very lucky, in terms of.
No, I'm not jealous. I'm just stunned.
I'm really, it's surprising.
But at the same time, everyone is good at what they're good at. Like, I can put out books very quickly and very high quality, I think. And that's something I can do. And I know most people can't. That's very hard. It's just, for me, it's very easy. And I presume for other people, some people are just like, oh yeah, it's just very easy for me to do videos. Like, I can just crank them out and it's just, they're naturally good at it. So
yeah. Well, it's just to say nothing as a YouTube content creator who, I get told every day, why aren't you making shorts, Derik?
I know. Actually, everyone's like, I can't think of shorts to make. And to be honest,
YouTube is just constantly. Now they're changing. They're like, oh, YouTube monetization, short monetization, because before it came out of a separate fund, which was called the Shorts Fund.
I remember that.
And now it's going to be part of your normal ad revenue. Yeah. And they're like shorts. And I'm like,
because it allows them to play 1 million more ads.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's all about. It all comes back to the same thing. It's all about. Everyone's like, how do you figure this stuff out? There you go. Yeah. How do you figure it out? I'm like, what makes the most money? Yeah. I'm like, well, but it's evil, or it's people don't like it. I'm like, that doesn't matter. None of that matters. You guys keep thinking it matters. It does not matter.
I know, and
it does not matter.
And I know, and at this point, I know a lot of people are not watching. But but this is that, that's the dilemma that we face every day, right? Which is,
we got people watching.
Well, I'm just saying, like, in terms of like the quantity of people that'll actually make it on the VOD to this far, it's like, but the dilemma I face all the time is, do I make a video? Like, what is giving more net good, right? Like, let's do this as like a philosophy question. What is better, or what is giving better net good? Me making a video about some system that I am very passionate about, that no one ever heard about, no one's ever really going to play, and quite frankly, no one is going to watch. Like, I'm going to make a video about, I don't know, Legend of the Five Rings RPG and get 200 views. Okay. Meanwhile, I could make a video about 5th edition or oneD&D.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and I'm not even saying this from a capitalistic perspective. I'm saying this about, like, I think I have things to say. I think I have beneficial advice for people that maybe can take their game in a different, or I won't even say better, I'll just say different direction. Am I being selfish by making a video that is because it's something I care about and I know that no one's going to view it? Whereas the market is telling me, hey, we don't want to see that video. Forget the payment. They are saying, let's say I don't make any money on either of these videos. If I'm making videos in order to get across a message, then aren't I being selfish by not making a video about the stuff that people really want to hear about?
No, because I don't know. You see, I disagree, because most of the channels I subscribe to, the videos only get maybe 10, 20, 30,000 views. But I love them because they're for me. Like, I don't watch, like, those channels, those D&D videos, they get hundreds of thousands of views. I don't watch any of them. I mean, I'm just not interested in them. I try, and I'm just bored. After like 2 minutes, I turn them off. But then there's a lot of, like, I won't get into the channels I like, but I watch a lot of movie channels where they review old movies, and some of them are very popular, but most of them, like, they'll get 20,000, maybe 30,000 views at most. But they'll be reviewing Alien 3 for an hour and a half, and I love it.
Which is, I know it gets a lot of hate, but it is actually a decent movie.
Well, the making of Alien 3 is more interesting than the movie itself. But yes, I do watch a lot, like, on classic movies from the 80s, 90s. That's like one of my favorite things. And these aren't big channels. And that's what I like to watch, and like, who cares?
Yeah. And so Ollie brings up the big two, right? Which is Seth and Questing Beast. And they both do very niche RPG topics. And I agree with what Ollie is saying. Seth and Questing Beast both are fairly, I would say, OSR focused. But Seth also is like a really super published writer with a ton of gaming credentials and has built up his audience over like 8-9 years. Like, Seth is you can't replicate Seth. And Questing Beast, I think you're correct. He definitely carved out that niche, but I think that's it. He has that super niche and he's got it, and that's it.
Yeah, well, you got what you got. I don't know. To me, it's whatever you're happy with. I mean,
but it is up to a certain point, because at a certain point I go, well, I can't put more time into this endeavor because I have a job.
I get it. I know what you're saying. You're using your time wisely, because maybe you should be making shorts and then get your views up, and who knows. But
exactly. I don't like having to, I'm not trying to, again, it is the system, right? Don't hate the player, hate the game. But it's just one of those things.
What? My brother's in Hollywood, and he and I were talking last night. There's so much luck, and people won't want to hear that. There's so much, like, in the Hollywood system. Right. There's a massive amount of luck. I'm just saying
that there are,
and that's life.
There are, okay, like if this was a linear regression, okay, I'm not going to get too mathy here, but if this was a linear regression, you would have a series of variables, right, which all add up to your final output, okay? Luck, relevancy, all these other factors, okay? And each of these factors has a weight, right? There's some factors that don't matter that much. They add a little bit, but they don't matter a lot. But at the end of the day, and I think you'll agree with this, Stephen, the system that you are talking about is probably the single largest variable factor to your, at least the ceiling of your success.
Oh, yes. That's why food is so popular, because everyone on the planet eats.
Correct.
And that's why there's a million food channels and there's a million food things, because everyone eats, so everyone can relate to food. But then if you do something that's like, I don't know, I'm just saying a men or women only channel, well, then you can only relate to half the population.
Right, you've already cut down half.
Right.
And so I mean, already RPGs are a fairly niche market down to this measure. And so when you are an RPG content creator and you decide to make a video which is not talking about D&D, you are making a decision to ignore, I don't know, 90% of the audience.
Yeah, no, that's why even we call our titles, we say D&D in the title, even though we talk about all things role-playing, but it's just like...
And mostly Pathfinder, if we're being honest. And
mostly Pathfinder. Well, that's our way to get the D&D people to play Pathfinder. But you know what? It works. I mean, it's like people will go to see, and if they're interested in the topic. And
I mean, again, we have found for us, we have found success in what we do, but I just ultimately think that it is I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, Derik, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that you wish D&D wasn't popular? And that I was like, kinda. You know what it's like? Here's what it's like. Okay, let me give you. It's like when you play a board game or a strategy game and you really love it. Okay. And then you find out that there is this one strategy or there's this one build order that is just really, really broken and powerful. And if you go that route, you'll just do much better every time. And it kind of ruins the game for you, because you're like, I don't have to go that route, but I know that I'm basically shooting myself in the foot, especially if it's a competitive game. And this was a big problem for me when I was a competitive Magic the Gathering player.
Yeah, that's why I only do draft. Actually.
There would be one deck that was like the best deck,
I couldn't do standard,
and I knew that. Yeah. But it was hard for me. I'd be like, I'm not going to play that deck.
Yeah,
and I'd lose every.
And you lose every. I can never do standard. Yeah. I only can do draft. That's it. Because at least you're building things on the fly. So.
I respect that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's like, what was I trying to prove? Right? Why would if I'm playing competitively, why wouldn't I have just played the best deck in the room? I don't know. Because I felt like maybe I wanted to prove something. I don't know, whatever the secret is. I can't say. All I could say is, for me personally, I have a great job.
I did the same thing. And then sometimes the worst part is I'd play the same deck and still lose.
Well,
that's even worse. You're like, wow, I can't even win with a winning deck. That's how bad I am.
And that's why I said the ceiling. There's no guarantee that if you go make a D&D video, you're going to do 50,000 views. That's not how that works. I'm just saying that the very best Pathfinder 2 or the very best Legend of the Five Rings video.
Yeah, no, I don't have to answer that, because I know for a fact there's some very popular Pathfinder people that are starting to go in other directions. Hell, like Glass Cannon did that. I mean, Glass Cannon was Pathfinder all the time. Now they're everything under the sun. They actually, I mean, they really went out there. They play every system.
Your friend and mine, Ronald, the rules lawyer. Yes. Recently,
I know he did that one thing on D&D and got a million views.
If you look at Ronald, he was doing, he would have 3, 4, 5K views.
Yeah.
He might get 5 or 6, 7K on a really good video, which is great. That's you making like $35 on AdSense.
Yeah.
And then he did a video about oneD&D.
Yep.
And guess what? It
did very well.
I don't even know how many. It got 44,000 views. So you're talking about almost a 10x.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are seriously trying to make content creation your career, or at least at least a part-time job.
Yeah, everyone did one on oneD&D.
Right?
I'm going to continuously do things on oneD&D. Right. I'm more just interested in it than I'm just more interested than
when your next video is called Death in Pathfinder and it does 2K views.
Yeah.
After you just did 44K views.
Yeah.
You got to sit there and go.
Well, he did the second one too. He did a follow-up because he knew it's like, crap, man.
You know, and I've noticed now on his channel, and I like Ronald. I think he's doing it right, but he's using blue backgrounds for his D&D videos, and he uses red background for his other non-D&D videos. Yeah. I think, but if you look, it's like, okay, well, how are his D&D videos doing? It's better. Like they're doing, you know, 2 to 3 times as many views as his non-D&D. And here's the thing. I know Ronald has been, you know, very public about it. He said, hey, listen, I'm looking to increase my revenue. I mean, trying to increase my thing. How do you ignore that? How do you sit down and say, I'm going to make a video that I know is going to make me $10, or I could sit down and make a video that's going to make me $5? And you
still think there's a backlash against D&D? You say it's completely conflicting what you were saying before. It's like people are sick of D&D. Yet if you want to make money, the only thing you can talk about is D&D. So
I mean, that's from a corporate perspective. I'm just saying from a YouTube audience perspective, you know, it's just one of those things. It's such a huge margin of difference.
All right, so now I have to go because I actually have to go to the city. So
all right.
I can keep talking forever.
I know.
About all this stuff.
You're good people, Stephen. I appreciate being on. So,
well, you haven't been on it for so long. I didn't expect this to really keep going, but it was so much fun. But I actually have I have to go into Manhattan and see a concert, so I have to leave. So have something
fancy.
To eat. Well, my son's in it.
Well, you know what I'm going to be doing tonight? Probably watching the Rules Lawyers 4E stream. I think it's on at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So last time I gave him like $50-$60 in super chats. So hey, if you're going to play 4th edition, I'm going to show some financial support. Okay.
Wow. Well, maybe I'll play some 4th edition.
We're trying to figure it out. I want to get it set up on Foundry. So, all right.